Stream is going to YouTube. What's up? What's up, Cam? Great to see you, Cam. Woo, the man. All right. Let's see. Oh, we're here. Okay, cool. Okay. All I have to do is not unlisten. Okay, thank you guys for being patient. What's up? What's up, Floor? Gotta mute that. Oh, I'm doing all this right. We're live. We're gonna go public. Alrighty, what is YouTube? What is up? What is up, YouTube? I said, what is YouTube? I know what YouTube is. YouTube is a platform that you're watching this on, and I'm really excited about today's Yapa Live because we're doing things a little bit different today. We have a full house. All right. So as you guys seen, give me 1 second. Pull this up. All righty. Okay, cool. So I think we're really now a bit ready to go. Okay, cool. So we're live on YouTube, live on Instagram. Okay, cool. So restart, everyone. 1, 2, 3, boom. What is up, everyone? Welcome to today's Yapa Live. I'm super excited because last week we had a very great idea between the Yapa fam. Someone had suggested that we should have a poll or ask the Yapa fam the questions that they like, the burning, desirous questions that they wanted to ask the opposite gender. All right. So because I don't know, all the 14-year-olds may be like, oh, he said what? So all right. So what we did was we put a poll together and we had over 75 submissions of questions that guys wanted to ask ladies and ladies wanted to ask guys. So today, instead of just having me on the live and like, talking over it, I brought in some friends. Say what's up, friends.
What's up?
What's up, friends?
Alrighty. So have some friends coming in. We're going to have them give a quick introduction, and then we're going to jump into getting fully into this live. We're going to first give the intros. We're going to say a quick word of prayer, and then we're going to jump into answering the questions, the relevant questions, the pertinent questions, the questions that you want to know about. Alrighty, without further ado, let's start from my right. So we'll start with someone that you guys probably seen before.
What's up, guys? It's Jocelyn, aka Phoenix. I am honored and blessed to be the sister of Aviel, Yapa 238, and I am here to talk with you guys and give my input on the questions that you have for us girls as guys and vice versa. So I'm excited to be here.
Whoop, whoop. Alrighty. Thank you, Phoenix, for coming in. Super exciting.
All right. Me.
Yes, ma'am. Now we're gonna go this way to the first or the second guy that's going to be in today's chat. What's up, Mike? Go ahead. Give an introduction.
Hey, hello, y'all. My name is Mike, and I'm a minister of Faith Tabernacle Apostolic Ministries. I'm also a law school student, and I also work as a community outreach liaison for a council member. So I'm glad to be here. I'm hoping to provide some insight on y'all's questions, and it's an honor and privilege to be here.
It's going to be crazy. It's going to be awesome. Real quick, just so everyone knows, because it's going to be relevant for our discussion today. Mike, how long have you been in church?
Probably all my life. My parents always had me going. We didn't always go consistently, but I always went at least once a month. So
yeah, that's what's up. All righty. Okay, so another face that you guys may have recognized. We'll go ahead and shoot down here to Sister Elissa.
Hi guys, I am Elissa. I'm from Oklahoma, and I haven't exactly grown up in church all my life, but I've definitely grown up around church all my life. So I have a lot of experience with things, even if I haven't necessarily had the opportunity to live it my entire life. All right.
Yes. All righty. Cool. Right below me, Sister Carmen. another familiar face.
Hello, my name is Carmen. I hail from Illinois. I've been in church for about 5 years. I started going 5 years ago, and like from the first day that I went, I was like, "Ooh, they know what they're talking about here." So I like to say that I've been in it for 5 years. But yeah.
Awesome. All righty, it's Cam, brother. Go ahead.
Hey, it's Cam. I'm 18 years old. And I think saying that I was raised on a church pew is an understatement because I was a PK. I was raised underneath a church pew, beside a church pew, sometimes on top of a church pew until my parents got onto me. But I've been in church all of my life, and I'm just so thankful to be a part of Yapa 238 tonight.
All righty. We're excited to have you on, Sister Maya.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maya. I'm 21. I'm in Lynchburg, Virginia, and I've been in church for at least middle school, but it was always my home church. So grandma was always there teaching the word to all the grandkids. But I'm definitely excited to be here and have this discussion. Hopefully it'll be very insightful for each person that's listening. So I'm just honored and excited to be here with everyone.
Awesome. We're excited to have all of you guys on today. And so let me go ahead and consult the chat. Let's see. What's up, Josiah? What's up? Arlie, is it? Shalom. What's up? Giselle, Floor, Natasha. What's cracking, everybody? Jasmine's on. Okay, cool. So you guys, we got the crew. Okay, everyone's ready for this. Everyone's ready to go. So before that, we're going to say a quick word of prayer because we're apostolic and that's what we do before we do things. So we're going to say a quick word of prayer and go ahead and then jump into some of these questions that the apostolic ladies have been dying to ask the apostolic fellas, and the apostolic fellas have been dying to ask the apostolic ladies. But before that, let's talk to Jesus. Thank you, Holy Ghost, for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of your body, to be a part of the church. We thank you for that, God. We pray a special blessing over today's Yapa Live. God, I pray it be relevant, it be helpful for us. God, let your perfect will be accomplished. And as we talk about things that we as young apostolics deal with, questions that we have, and we pray that you would help us tonight. And we commit this into your hands. We thank you for this opportunity to fellowship with saints all across the world. We appreciate you for that. We commit this again into your hands, Jesus. In Jesus' name, thank you, Lord. Amen. All right. Again, if you're watching on Instagram, go over and watch it on YouTube. We have a full live going with the suite of super sweet Holy Ghost filled young apostolics. So without further ado, guys, you guys ready for this? You guys ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's do this.
Okay, Cam's ready. All right. Okay, cool. So, first question. All right. Let's see. Okay. Wow, that's pretty straightforward. Okay. After looks, what is the next thing that attracts a guy to a girl? Okay, so after work. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start in the circular circle. So let's see who's or go ahead, Phoenix, go ahead.
Oh, well, I am not a guy, so I could only surmise what attracts. Do you want me to answer it like from the opposite, like what after looks, what attracts what a girl finds attractive in a guy? Or do you want me to answer
let's do that.
Okay. Well, again, everyone is different. They have their own opinions on things, but I think generally for a female, and I don't think it's just an apostolic woman. I think it runs innate in women. I think steadfastness, things when a guy is confident enough to stand on his own 2 feet for what he believes in, a woman feels that man will be able to protect them and also lead them, because a guy who will be steadfast in what he believes in, his morals and his values, will not be easily swayed by other people. One thing that really turns off women or a real woman, especially a godly woman, is a guy who is going to be easily influenced by what other people think, by the voices of other people, instead of standing on the word of God and what he can be grounded in and what she can be grounded in, because she's going to be leaning on him. So a dude who has the confidence to stand on his own TV, stand on the word of God, and stand on what he believes in and act upon it, and not let other people sway his decision, is very attractive. And it'll bleed out, that confidence and that steadfastness will bleed out in other areas of his life and his being. As instead, like, sometimes if you just meet someone, right, you're not going to know that, oh, I'm steadfast in what I believe in. But if a guy's confident, not easily swayed by people, you will see it even in his stance. So it'll bleed out in other areas as well, and it is very attractive. So
that's an awesome answer. All right, any of you ladies want to chime in on that question? That's a good one.
So I kind of want to take it a little bit different direction. I know some people could look at this question and think of it as a very subjective thing based on their preferences and their personality, but I think there's two factors that are very huge. One, obviously, is like personality and characteristics, and the other is spirituality. Somebody that's mature and solid themselves is going to look at, a guy's or a girl's spirituality outside of like their personality and character elements. So I think that's a big thing that somebody that's solid would look at.
All righty. That's what's up. You guys are hearing it from the horse's mouth. All right, Carmen?
One of the things that I was thinking about was like I think it kind of depends on like where you like first meet them, because like if you first like lay eyes on them in a church service, like you're obviously going to be paying attention to how they worship and how they listen and how they pray. But as far as like with an interaction, one of the things that I really, really look for is like, am I able to communicate with this person? Like, am I comfortable talking to them? Are they willing and able to hold a conversation? What do they like to talk about? Those types of things, because for people who don't know me, I'm a talker. Like, I need to be able to communicate. And so one of the things that I find super attractive is a guy who has not only the capacity to communicate well, but the willingness and the eagerness to communicate well.
I back that. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, Maya?
Yeah, so after looks, I think definitely, which has already been touched on, is the way that he approaches. Definitely, it gives an indication of what his character may be as you continue to get to know him. And also it gives an indication of his intention towards you. And also kind of just looking at how does he interact with other female ladies or apostolic ladies, because you definitely want someone who is able to be friendly, but does have healthy boundaries with, I don't know, I like intention. So I think keeping it clear who you're interested in and not being too flirtatious is definitely important. But yeah, because being upfront, I think that's where some people miss the mark, guys or girls, is they don't have intention at the beginning. It's like, let's flirt, let's do whatever. And then somehow you're supposed to end up around intention months later. It should be at the beginning. And I think it starts with your approach. So be nice, I guess, on those DMs, or don't do DMs at all. But yeah, so approach is the next thing after looks is that I take notice of.
Wow. All right. That's great. Fellas, I hope you guys were taking notes, okay? Because there's a lot that was said that's about, oh, look, Cam, there. Oh, I'm taking notes. But take notes. Oh, we got to know. Anyway, so all right, so now we're going to flip it. Okay, so we're going to flip it. Now the fellas are going to respond. Okay, and before we do that, just so you guys know, if you guys are watching on Instagram, go to YouTube. Okay, this is like super fire content, and we have something super special in the chat box. So check the chat box. For those of you guys who are looking at the chat box, we have a link that you can go to vote for the next question. All right, click that link and go and vote for which question should be the next that we answer, because we can't get to all over 75 of them that we gathered in the past 2 days. We can't get to all of them, so go ahead and go over there, vote which one is the one that we should ask next. All right, so fellas, I guess Cam, you can go ahead and start. What is the next thing after looks that attracts you to a girl? Let's say that.
Okay, so naturally, I think in church, you're kind of looking at how she worships. And one thing that stood out to me once was the idea that, you know, not only is she in the altar getting something from God, but she's willing to stay in the altar with somebody, and she understands the heart of the altar. And back to what they were talking about earlier, you know, what Carmen was saying about being comfortable talking to her. That's one thing that personally I look for is, can I actually talk to this girl? And the other thing is not over flirtatious, like not just trying to throw herself on some guy, or just, you know, she's like, she's wanting a guy so bad that she hangs out with like 7. That's just not attractive.
Yeah.
But those things stand out the most to me.
That's what's up. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, so for me, I was pretty much going to say what has been said, because to me, I view it as, okay, you know, after you see someone, what's the next thing you're exposed to after that? So after their appearance, what's the next thing that you're exposed to after that? And oftentimes, unless you're in a church setting, it's the emotional side. It's the emotional aspect. So what you look for is compatibility. You look for emotional compatibility, emotional connection, and how you communicate. So that's kind of the main thing I look for. It's like, okay, do I feel comfortable conversating with this particular individual? But as y'all pointed out, if I'm at, you know, a church or something like that, you look for something different. And as especially because I mentioned I'm a preacher, but I'm also a musician. So when I'm a musician, I'm kind of looking, I have like a bird's eye view of everything, you know what I mean? So I can see who's
Watch him
worth,
play.
Watch
him pray.
So when I'm not preaching, right, and I'm on the drums, I can kind of see like who's worshiping, who's not worshiping when I'm on drums that day. So I look out for that, like, okay, because the person you want to have a relationship with should be someone who has a relationship with God, and how you worship reflects your worship with God. The quality of your worship and the substance of your worship reflects your relationship with God, or reflects the quality of your relationship with God. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to say. Like, I remember being at youth camp or a conference or something. All the guys are talking about the girls that are there. They're known for this. They're cool. They're this. We know them, all that great jazz. And I'm like, okay, so you get there, you get to the altar, you're worshiping, but you're doing that little, like, you know, that side P, like, you know, you're trying to see, you know. But for me, that was a big deal. So like after the looks, it was like more so, like Mike said, their relationship with God. Okay. And one of the things I'll just real quick like to advocate for all of the godly dudes who are like looking for a godly girl. Okay. I know sometimes, you know, I don't know, whatever. We're just on social media. I don't know, whatever. But it's like there's a lot of guys who are like that. So, you know, you do that, you know, if you're on the drums. I remember being on the keys and I'm just looking out there like, hey, what's going on? You know, like who's actually worshiping? Where's the relationship? Yeah, exactly. And so you know, for me, it's like the actual having a relationship with God, like a real one, not a put on one, not a fake one, something that's consistent day to day. And that's what I found to be like one of the most attractive things to me, you know, was you know, because the looks is like the first step. And then the second is like, okay, where's your relationship with God? So that's what I'll say. So, and it's great to hear everyone's perspective, because not only do girls have a different perspective, guys have a different perspective, but it's like, you know, there's so many things to think about when it comes to that. So thank you. What's up, Maya?
So I just wanted to kind of add on to the worship aspect as far as like clarification, or maybe just like another perspective. Because I'm sure if anyone maybe has had a crush at church, you get a little antsy, a little giddy when you're worshiping. You're like, I don't know if that thought has ever crossed your mind, like, am I worshiping good? Because I know he's looking over here. I think it is just keeping in mind that there is a healthy balance, because the first reason why you're at church is to serve God. And for me, if it's a busy week, I really want to honor that one time where it's just like I'm one accord with everyone there, and I don't want to be distracted by my crush. I'll catch him after church, and like Aviel said, it should be that day to day. So, some people can be very animated in church, but how are they living their lives once they leave church too is important. So just, I guess for any people who might have a little crush at church, keep your eyes on Jesus. You can glance maybe once or twice, make sure that they're, behaving well in church, but that's your forefront and your focus. And you definitely don't want to get distracted trying to praise a certain way to look like a good person, because they'll see that sincerity in your worship. So I just wanted to add that, just to clarify if anyone has ever had that type of crushy experience at church.
And look towards the hills from whence cometh my help. Amen.
And to add on a little bit to Maya, what you said, you made a really good point. And this isn't to discourage anyone from, watching to see how people, worship and are involved in the service. But just with my experience going to different conferences and things like that, I knew some people, actually too many people, honestly, who, because they were at a conference, I don't know if it was just the hype or because they knew people would be watching, putting on and doing more so-called worship than they would normally do at home church or even in their daily lives is actually a thing. So you do want to take that into consideration, because someone who isn't worshiping at all, that's worse than if they are, but there's processes of elimination, so and prayer is definitely a key aspect to that, because you don't want anyone who's putting on. So just to keep that in mind, because you could be like, oh, but I saw them worshiping. It's like, okay, but that doesn't just automatically, circle them on the list.
That's because everyone else was doing it.
Yeah, right. I know, exactly, right.
All right, go ahead, Elisa, and then I'm gonna go ahead real quick. If you guys are just real quick, Elisa. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, go to the link that's pinned. Okay, you can go ahead and click to vote as to which is the next question we're going to answer. Okay, so make sure you do that. It's at the top of the chat. Go ahead, Elisa.
Okay, so to take what Janessalyn said further, is obviously you can't really see somebody's fruit in their life like when you first meet them, but you should start seeing the signs of fruit fairly on in your relationship and spending time around them. And if they're fake, then their fruit isn't going to be there. The depth of their walk isn't going to be there. And, people can only fake so long before they're going to slip up and show you their real fruit. And, if you have questions, you can always ask for discernment, because you ask for discernment, God will show you sometimes more than you want to know.
Yes, he will.
Yeah. That's so true.
That's so true. All right. So we have another question. Again, vote, go back and click that link. Let me go ahead and share the screen so you guys can see what I'm saying. All righty. So the next question is by a large margin. What do you guys think about the girls that go crazy in worship? Those girls who just okay. So you guys already know what's up. All right. If that's not an answer enough, all right. But we're gonna go ahead and then we'll flip it. So first, Mike, when a girl just gives her all in worship, what do you think of that?
I think it's beautiful. Oh, was that my phone? That wasn't my phone. I think it's beautiful because, as a musician, how do I put this? You're taught to kind of maintain control, right? When you're playing, you're taught not to just get off the drums and start praising God. So as a result, I'm naturally more stoic, and I've always been kind of like that anyway, just naturally more, calm demeanor. So as a result, you kind of have that going, but it's nice to see someone that's out there just worshiping, just letting it all out, just letting it go, willing to sacrifice themselves, their appearance, their look, and all that, whatever it is, whatever they have on, they don't care about none of that. It's just a direct connection to God, direct focus with God. It's like they just literally take everything out, everything in the room, just blanket out, and all they tunnel vision. All they see is God. It's like they put in like binoculars, focusing on a particular point, focusing on that point the whole time. But it reminds me when I used to play basketball, they'd always tell you when you're shooting, focus on the backboard, focus on that point, that specific point. Don't look at nothing else. And I think there's a beauty to that, being able to get past all the clutter, all the mess, all the things that are in your way, all the obstacles, and being able to still see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I mean? So I think that's beautiful.
That's what's up.
What do you got to say, Cam? What do you got to say?
Okay, so I kind of want to take a different angle here. We were talking about discernment, and we were talking about what was it we were saying? Oh, fake worship. I think it's beautiful. I'm like Mike. I think it's beautiful when a girl is just like focused in and everything. But like, I think I'm not gonna stop there. I'm just gonna kind of shift over to like when it's over, when the camp is over. It's just kind of like that fruit's just kind of molded. It's just like, hold on, like this is, it almost makes that worship look worse. You know what I mean? Like it looked like they gave their all and you were taken by it. And then afterwards it's just like, But I will say that during that time of looking at it and saying, wow, that's amazing, that it is, I guess you could say, attractive to a guy. And it's kind of drawing it in. I just like, there's this other side of things of, okay, is it genuine?
Yeah. And I think you have to spend like time with the person to see if it's genuine, because, you know, like Carmen said, plastic trees produce plastic fruit. And so if someone's faking, if they're fronting, if that's like, then at some point you're going to be able to read the fruit at some point. So
right.
Maybe, hopefully it's not like when you're dating, like hopefully it's like when you're kind of like in that talking stage. If it,
better dating than when you're married.
Well, there you go. Well, there you go. Now, before we flip it over to the ladies and ask them, what is it? I don't want to say do to you, but like, what is it like for when a guy goes crazy in worship, when he's focused on God? Like, oh, real quick, let me answer that. Okay, to me, it's crazy. It's like, wow, all right, given over to God, like what Mike, what you said about she's not caring how she looks, because, you know, in general, okay, being nice, women tend to care about how they look probably more so than guys when it comes to like the dress and the hair and stuff like that. You know, guys just, you know, majority of the time just not really thinking about all that. So that barrier of like, how do I look, isn't as prominent, you know, with guys. I'm not saying it's not there. Some guys it is there, some guys it's not at all, especially when it comes to worship. But when you know someone like is like, I don't care about that, or that doesn't matter to me as much as my relationship with Jesus and giving him worship that he is deserving of, that's like, it does something it'll do something to you. No, but it gets you, like, wow, like gets you thinking on a deeper level. So it's definitely something that is at the very least attractive, the very least. But
yeah, when they don't care about how they look and they worship and you feel it as genuine, like it's very attractive. Very attractive.
Yeah, most definitely. What's up, Carmen?
All right, I'm ready to answer this question. So, yeah, Avi, when you're like, girls tend to really care about how they look, I was like, immediately something popped in my head. I was like, gotta say this. So, one thing that, I mean, as not all dudes, but a lot of dudes deal with today is this, I think this pressure to refrain from emotional manifestations. Like, so if I see a dude that's like worshiping, if I see a dude that's crying in front of other human beings and is like willing and like is just like has like, that is a display of emotion that I think not all people in general, but in this context of this conversation, that guys might not be really comfortable doing, or maybe like they haven't either grown up in a way or whatever, in a way that allows them to tap into that. And so when a guy is just worshiping hardcore, that shows that he is willing and able to tap into the emotions that come from being connected to God in love. And so it's like, if he's going to respond in love because of that love with the Lord, then it's way more likely that he's going to do the same thing with a girl that he loves. So that's my take.
That is good. That's very good.
That was amazing.
The English teacher worded it well. All righty. So, all right. So ladies, what is that? We'll go ahead, I guess, Elissa, you can go ahead and answer that.
Okay. So I want to kind of answer it for myself and then answer it for looking outside. So for me, kind of the inward self-assessment is, if I'm willing to get excited and like put passion and energy into just general things in life, why would I not take that same approach to my walk with God? And like, I've spent a lot of time on platforms and different things, and I've seen people that are just up there for the show and everything. But if you're like on the praise team or you're whatever, you're in a position of leading people into worship. That's your purpose. And for me, I have to prioritize being able to actually worship and not just get caught up in going through the motions. And so when I turn around and I evaluate somebody else, I'm going to be holding it to that same standard, that if I see them, you know, getting all excited about going on a roller coaster, but they can't run in church and they can't, you know, dance in the spirit and stuff, like there's a disconnect there, that they're not prioritizing their walk with God. And that's not attractive at all. Like you should give God your best.
Yeah.
And if you're giving something in the world, or just, you know, something in your life, maybe it's not ungodly, but it's not God, that just doesn't add up. And if they can't prioritize their walk with God before they get with you, what makes you think that they can lead you and carry the godly head of the relationship the way they should? Like, I'm a strong personality. I'm not about to get out here. Aviel's heard this a lot of times. I'm not about to get out here and lead this relationship and everything and like drive the whole thing. Like, I need somebody that's like a couple steps ahead, that like I can bounce stuff off of, that has developed their walk with God and everything. Cause I don't want to baby somebody. Like, that just does not work. So like,
Plus that's
go ahead, Janeslin.
no, I was just gonna say, plus that's the way it's supposed to be. The husband is supposed to be the spiritual head of the home. He's supposed to be the one leading. If he's the head, he's the one going forward, and he's supposed to be bringing his family further. You know, it shouldn't be the wife, contrary to what a lot of feminists nowadays would like to say, even the stuff creeping in the church. So, but yeah, those are very good points.
Side note, girls, don't accept any less. Like, if you put up with it, it will continue.
Hear that? Okay, so all right, there's a lot of comments, a lot of people amening, a lot of people. So we're going to go ahead and continue, finish up this question, then we'll take a comment break and just read some of these comments, because they're really they're great. All right, so Janeslin, did you want to go ahead and answer that question?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I'll answer the question the way it was asked really quickly. And when I see just people in general, and even girls as well, a little bit more so with the girls, because kind of like what Ava said, we tend to put a lot more effort and concern into our appearances. We're females, that's kind of natural. And so when I see girls who, you know, look really nice, look cute, so they do care about their appearance, but not so much to where it hinders them from getting what they can get from God, and they break out in true, genuine, crazy worship, that touches me. And it like makes me honestly feel like, am I missing out? Like, I want to make sure I get from God what I can get. And so I similarly to what Alyssa said, that you know, you don't want to go through the motions. And so I do my best to like really zero in on the vein of the Holy Ghost so that I can get what God has for me and it be genuine, you know. But seeing guys do it, it is very attractive, especially honestly. I know I did say girls tend to care more about their appearance, and it's true. But these guys, these 2020, 2021 guys, I'm like, okay. I mean, I get it, but at the same time, not fully, because they seem to be, some of them seem to be more into how they look and how they come across to people than even some of the females are. And that's not attractive. It really isn't. So also similarly to how the guys were saying how they see girls like just giving their all, as a female, that is very attractive, at least in my opinion, because it's like, again, kind of going piggybacking off of the answer to my answer to the first question. It's like, okay, he doesn't care about what other people think. He's there to get what he can get from God. And that's like, I mean, because I'm thinking, well, actually, I haven't actually looked at a guy and thought this, but I would be thinking that, okay, if I am married to this man or to a man, and we were going through something in our family situation, and we needed something from God, and we needed the head of our house to plug into the Holy Ghost, like, I wouldn't want someone who would pass up an opportunity to get what he can get from God when the opportunity is there, because he cares about what other people think of him, or he cares about sweating in his expensive suit, or he cares about looking like a fool. Like, no, you thinking that are making yourself a fool. And because you can't, that, I mean, how are you going to exalt anything above God? And Carmen, what you said, like, I was like, amen, and yes, girl, because I love deep connections. And it's like, if my husband isn't going to have a deep connection with the perfect God of the universe who loves him unconditionally, what, even during the times where I feel like I don't love him conditionally, how is he going to love me that way when I'm imperfect? You know what I mean? So there's a lot that kind of goes through your mind when you really think about certain things. And so, yeah, a guy giving his all in worship genuinely, it's like, man, it's so beautiful, one, and it's very touching, because it's like, wow, you're in God's special moment. And so,
yeah. That's what's up. Maya, you got anything you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, of course. Everything that has been said is just so on point and so beautiful. I definitely want to put like add in more a practical sense. So like when I read the question as far as crazy in worship, I do want to bring back that each person and how they worship God may look different. So like for me, I'm more of a crier, not necessarily a shouter type of person. So like for example, we have prayer service, and for some reason when I cry a lot of snot comes out. I'm sorry if that was gross, but my pastor is always like, sometimes you gotta get ugly for the Lord. So I don't know if I'm gonna meet a man during that prayer service, but that's where it comes to sincerity and just keep in perspective that the way one girl might worship or one guy might worship might be somewhat different, but you should be able to discern the same spirit. which is the Holy Ghost. So, just keeping that in mind, because like also I was kind of like preparing and looking up. So 1 Samuel 16 with verse 7, which is at the point where David's about to be anointed. God reminds the prophet that he looks at the heart, whereas we look at appearance. So again, it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier with the day-to-day, that sincerity of worship in the way that they live, and not just how you see them at church, because you want to see that sincerity. And because I can't look at Carmen's worship and be like, oh, I can see the sincerity of her heart. I don't know her heart, but I can, see her works day to day, which will give me an indication of her sincerity for her through her worship that I saw at church on Sunday, or, whenever you have church service. So just giving a more practical application, reminding that worship really comes to the sincerity of it. And one crazy might be crying, one crazy might be shouting, maybe you're a runner, maybe you're a dancer, I don't know. But so just keeping that in mind as well.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's awesome. All those answers are just like so awesome. And real quick, I'm going to go ahead, like I said, the comment break. So let me read some of these. Victoria says yes. The mask saves me when I'm Tommy Wall says the mask saves me when my nose starts running. So having a mask at church. So that's an idea right there. Jeremy says, CBH, I'm so in the service, I honestly don't be paying attention to nobody else. That's good. Very plugged in. See, let's see. For the guys, we shouldn't be lazy in our worship, says Shane. Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, so let's see. There's a ton of comments, man. There's a few questions, but I'm trying to keep up with them. Okay. Yeah, a lot of yeses. That's good. Yes, Elisa. Yes. Yeah, there's a lot. So I don't know if you guys are, if you guys can. What I do if I is like pull up a little tab to watch the comments and see if there's anything that you would want to respond to. But yeah, that's awesome. Let's again, if you guys are watching on YouTube, if you're on Instagram, go to YouTube. You can ask a question or vote on the question, the next question that needs to be asked, and then you can also watch it on YouTube as well. So let's go ahead and hop into the next question. A lot of people had that question regarding worship. So here's the next one. So 42% out of 28 responses. Why do saved guys wait so long to approach girls they like or are interested in? For example, wait months, even years. Why, fellas? Why do we do that? All right, so I'll go ahead and start it on this. Okay, sometimes, contrary to popular belief, all right, and I know guys talk it up. Okay, real quick, let's just take everyone to a hotel room with guys, right? The guys, they just went to a conference, they get back, right? And they're like, man, you see all these girls, and it's just a whole bunch of gassing up. Bro, you got this, man. You talk to her, bro. And I'm talking about a lot. I mean, like hazmat suits and all, there's a ton of gassing up. So the guys are you just got that, Janessa? No, yeah, I got it. I was hoping someone kind of, but anyway, anyway, so where'd she go? She got that and she like, bye. But anyway, so it was bad joke. But no, so you have a whole bunch of dudes and they're like, oh, let's go get it, But with all that energy, with all that fuel, and maybe I'm the only guy who's seen this happen to other dudes, or maybe once or twice that happened to me, but you still get nervous. All right. You see there's a girl, you have a shot, right? And you're like, because you could be shot down, you could. So there's like those little things that kind of like, it can be nerve wracking. All right. So I think that one of the reasons why guys would wait so long, even though I don't believe in that, you guys heard me talk about the times where like I saw a girl that I like walked down, I'm super weak in the knees and sweating, all this embarrassing, but all that stuff is a thing. And I think that one of the reasons why guys stall is because they're scared, right? They're scared. They don't want to, they're scared of rejection. Maybe they could be just you're a lot for them. They put you on such like a high, like, wow, she's this, she worships, she's beautiful, she's da 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 da. I don't know if I, have a shot with her. So like those are things that could enter a dude's head and cause him to stall, right? He's pumping the brakes, and it's like I've been with guys nudging him on the shoulder, bro, she's right there, bro, go talk to her. And it's easy for the friend to do it, the friend that doesn't find her attractive, or maybe he does, but he's like trying to help his homie out. It's easy because there's not all that emotion behind it. But for the dude who's like, man, he actually has to talk to her, is nerve-wracking. So I think it's guys just trying to escape the nerves, escape the fear. So I don't know, homies. What do you guys think? What's in your mind, Cam?
I'm gonna let Mike go first because my gears are still turning. Just
okay.
So I guess the reason why some hesitate. Well, I guess let me start by saying for me, I was kind of a mix. So, well, let me double check. What was the question, just to make sure I'm not too off?
Yeah. So the question is, why do saved guys wait so long to approach a girl?
Okay. So let me redirect. I was gonna start when I was on stage. Okay. So with saved, I think it's kind of similar, right? I think it comes down to fear of rejection is the first one. I think the reason why some take so long to approach others is the same reason some people take so long to apply for a college, or some people ultimately refuse to apply for a certain college, is because the fear of the rejection letter, right? Guys fear getting a rejection letter from someone they ask out. It makes you feel like a failure. It makes you feel like it brings with it the possibility of you entering a depression of sorts, right? Because you're so stressed about, oh man, like I feel like I can't do it. I applied for Harvard and now I might as well not apply to anywhere else because it's like, I can't do it. So I think that's one reason. I think the other reason is one you addressed, Aviel, is a feeling of not being ready. Like it's a feeling of not having what it takes. So you allow that fear to hold you back, to prevent you from making a move. And that applies even in general situations beyond just asking someone out. Like that applies when it comes to a business decision, when it comes to a school application, when it comes to a ministerial position that God's calling you into. I'm thinking of my own pastor. He told me he was hesitating to take the jump towards pastorship, and God kept telling him, and he's like, nah, I just feel like I'm not ready. And you are ready, but you just feel like you're not ready. And I think the last reason is you're actually not ready. Right? Like you're actually not ready. You meet the person, and they just have a higher level of something than you, and it's clear, like they're like you talked about Avio on the live, like God, it's not God's will for a woman that's a 7 have to settle for a 3 from a spiritual perspective, and maybe you're a 3 from a spiritual perspective, and she's like an 8 or something. She's operating in ministry, doing all this other stuff, and you're over here struggling to pray each night. That gap, you notice it, and it makes you realize you're not ready, because ultimately it comes down to God's time, right? God has a time for everything. So maybe you're ready, but it's not God's time yet. So that's another aspect of not being ready. That's why I think sometimes waiting isn't bad, because sometimes it's just not God's time yet. So sometimes you're ready, you have the tools, but you're not supposed to be proactive and go out searching. Like you talked about one of your lives about how they looked for a woman for David. Like sometimes it's not that time yet, right? But the other aspect is maybe God's waiting on you to get your spiritual life together. Like, hey, it's time. It's like, hey, and I'm ready for you to do it, but you're just not ready. So it's pretty much those 3 reasons to me, right? Like those are pretty much the 3 things it comes down to in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of what you said I can resonate with, is agree like 100%. Cam?
I know some of the ladies are probably like, okay, yeah, we heard all that. Who cares? Still just come up and talk to us. But it's a real thing. It is
a real thing. It is.
I think it has something to do with our self-esteem level. I remember when we were doing when I was watching the Yapa Live, and you were talking about self-esteem, and I was like, wow, that's probably one of the major reasons. And you may have said that that's like one of the major reasons that we don't want to walk up to a girl that we might find attractive. But like Mike said, it's that fear of rejection. Like it just does something. It's like, oh, right in the pride. I mean, you can come back from a Holy Ghost filled service and it still has a way of getting you right in the spirit, just right here. Oh, and as guys, with this really low self-esteem level, we probably have thoughts in our head like, oh, she's so pretty, she probably has a boyfriend or has had many, that kind of thing. And it's just like, yeah, it's like, and you see her brother walk by or something, it's like, oh yeah, that's him right there,
So true.
Relatable in our situation, yeah.
Was that it, or I got?
Yeah. That's all I got.
All right, so I get that. It's that's what it is, ladies. And this was a question that was pointed to the homies, so that's what it is. For the most part, I don't know. Maybe guys in the chat have their own different experiences as to why they don't, go up there and just like start going crazy. But I do want to flip the question. All right, not in the sense of like ladies coming up to guys like, why aren't you guys coming up to? Okay, not like that. But there is a way. Okay, so how do you guys approach a girl? Well, okay, so I'm pretty sure the inverse of the question would be like, how would you want to be approached? But I'm pretty sure that's a question that someone already asked, so we'll get to it. But Carmen, you're gonna say something?
Oh, this is just one thing that and I saw one of the comments someone asked, I can't remember who it was, if they think that it's like inappropriate for a girl to pursue a guy. And so like that was kind of in my head. And then like when we were talking about waiting and stuff, I know that I is not dude. But if I was a guy, one of the reasons that I think I would probably wait was to see the girl's fruits. So with me, like as a girl, for anyone who hasn't picked up on this already, I have a very strong personality. Like I'm the type of person, I want to know what's up. I'm like, I work to be very, very friendly and very approachable, despite the fact that my resting face is not super approachable looking. And so for me, it's like, when Kim was like, the girls are probably like, yeah, but still approach us. I was like, kind of. But it's like, I feel for you, but also, anywho, I didn't used to be, before I got saved, I was not the type of person to just like wait to be pursued. I wasn't pursued a lot anyways, but I wasn't the type of person who like on principle waited to like be pursued. And then the logic of it occurred to me that if a guy in his heart really feels like he likes me a whole lot, but he there is no way, he has no like mental or emotional equipment to get himself over to talk to me, then it's like, this dude's not ready yet. Like
emotional equipment.
Like
emotional equipment.
Because what I
that is a perfect
like we're
term,
robots.
Carmen.
Because I don't want to see that you're not nervous, because it's not like, because I'm not suggesting that like if you're nervous about talking to a girl you're not ready. It's just like, are you the type of person who's capable of moving past the nervousness? Because you're gonna get nervous like in all kinds of things, so that's not a thing. But like if a dude is, if he has the emotional equipment to go past the nervousness, what that tells me is not only that he's interested enough to go past his fear, it also tells me that he's confident enough to go in the face of his fears. Plus, like, I realize to the extent that I can, how nerve-wracking it is to go up to a girl, but like, imagine, if you will, later in the relationship, you get to a point of like, where something conflicting needs to be discussed. And like, if you were worried about me rejecting you when you didn't even know me, and your life wouldn't be that different without me in it, and you were too scared to come up to me, then how am I supposed to assume that you're gonna come up to me instead of being too worried about losing me as a girlfriend and then just let this problem lie? Like, no, I'm not saying you're a bad person or whatever. I'm just like, you ain't ready yet. And like, and the thing is, if
you
I'm
need
ready,
more emotional equipment.
Yeah, let me go get that.
what?
Big Lots, Home Depot.
But yeah, so it's like, and it's honestly like, it's just a maturity thing, because I think that when you have differing levels of maturity, it can, like, things get wonky fast. Like, it's not good. And so I think if you're, and like, especially like, and I would say like, even to guys, like if you're really, really nervous about talking to her, like, remember this topic. Like, okay, so like how okay, if I can't do this because I'm afraid of losing this person I don't even have, like, is fear gonna stop me from having conversations that matter, from having uncomfortable, scary conversations that matter? Am I gonna be too afraid of losing that girl that once I have her, that I'm not gonna talk about this stuff? And let me tell you, if you're just like, yeah, I'm willing to not talk about it, you're gonna lose her anyways. Or you're gonna keep her and it's gonna get miserable because you don't talk about those kind of stuff. So it's like, just think about it.
Carmen, I actually used to feel like the exact same way. And part of me still does, because been through that many times where it's like, okay, I'm not understanding, like, where is the confidence here? But at the same time, because I have so many brothers, I do tend to sympathize, but at the same time, the female in me is like, but where's the confidence? So I do sympathize with you guys. At the same time, it can be kind of like frustrating. Like, if the girl gives you signs that she may be interested, like if you catch her looking at you, you don't want to just jump to conclusions. Like, it has to be like a consistent look, not just a random glance and, oh my gosh, she's so into me, because that's happened too, and it's like, no. But
That happens a lot with dudes. That happens a lot.
They glance at you and you're hearing wedding bells.
Yeah, I knew she wanted me. No, but one thing I would suggest is, kind of working your way into even just like a friendship level. Because if you target her as in like, oh, I'm going to go get her number and jump in like that, if you don't have the emotional equipment prepared to deal with that, another way that you can kind of slide in is through like friendship, kind of like, oh, hey, it's nice to meet you and everyone else in your group, because 9 times out of 10 she's not going to be alone. And see if there's anyone that she's hanging around with that, or if there's any opportunities for you just to like kind of break the ice through friendship. That's all I got in regards to giving you some advice in overcoming that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But even I just say, sometimes even if you try to work that friend angle, doesn't always work out the way you plan for it to work out. I'm just saying, and I'm not talking from experience or nothing. I'm just saying. So anyway, Janessa. All right, let's hit another question.
I had something I wanted to add if we have time.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna take it from a little bit of a different spin. Wait, and don't approach. For my guys and my ladies, imagine hypothetically all the guys or girls that might like you. And if you really knew who they were, would you want them to approach you? You want to wait for the right person God wants for you to approach you. Because we have to guard our hearts. So no, I don't want every guy to approach me who likes me. If God did not send you, we can be friends, but I don't want to be approached that way, because I have to guard my heart for the right thing. And I say this for 2 important reasons. One, like I mentioned already earlier, is intention. We are dealing with real people, real hearts, real feelings, real backstories, and healing that's going on. And you want to be intentional from the beginning. One quote I love is, you should never pick a flower if you're just going to play with it. You should just let it keep growing. So just let it grow. Let that person grow. And then the second reason why I say this from a different perspective is because of the body of Christ. You don't want to be messy. You are dealing with a person who's been created in God's image, who's your brother or sister in Christ. And you don't want all this drama and all this extra mess in the church. So you have to be intentional with who you're approaching, because this isn't just like, oh, my possible future spouse. This is God's child. This is his daughter. This is his son. We have an eternal goal later to be in the kingdom. So I don't have time to stir up drama with everyone and flirt with every girl at church or flirt with every guy at church, whoever you are listening. So in some situations, I would say don't desire people to approach you, because you want to desire God to send the right man to approach you, not just anyone. So I know. God, I'm lonely sometimes too, so I understand it's okay to feel that way. But we do have to reel in our flesh and say, God, let the man that you want in my life to approach me, not just anyone who likes me or whatever, or has some type of intention. Let it be God sent, you know? So yeah, I just wanted to add that little kind of twist on that question.
Wow, you said a lot. That was a lot, man. Hold it to the fire. Wow. That's good. Okay. Don't got nothing. A lot of people are agreeing with what you're saying. Come on, Maya. Yeah. Whew. Okay. So that's actually, there's a few things that a few times that I was like, oh yeah, I remember doing that, because it is the same. I think it's respectful to do that, to like honor God so much that you're not going to, do one of his kids like that willy-nilly. So all right, so to the guys, I had to open this up like this. Sorry, let me bring this. Can I bring it up? To the guys, what does your first step of pursuing a woman look like? Saying hello, compliments, just tell her you are interested. Hold on, I didn't get that last part. Interested up front. So homies, what do you do? What's the first step look like?
Okay. Wow. Ask her what her name is.
Yeah, I think that'll help a little bit.
Yeah, ask her what her name is. Even if I don't know her name and she doesn't, and I know even if I know her name and she doesn't know me, I'll ask it again. Just say, what's your name? Not that I don't know. It's just kind of like a good conversation starter. I've used that for years. It's probably grown stale. It's probably grown stale. Now, I think I've done this one, but it's never been, it's kind of like, what's your name? And then they're like, and they say their first name. It's like, no. I know that one. Your last name. Oh yeah. My last. And then they give their last name and it's like, oh, okay. Then there's a big conversation starter. And then that might indicate it's like, oh, that's the first move, but they don't know that to begin with. So hopefully.
Wait, what did you say, Carmen?
I was like, well, now they do.
Yeah. That's the truth.
Ladies,
When I said that,
what's your
it was
name?
just like
all these ladies watching. If a guy comes up and goes, "What's your name?" They're like, "I know what you're doing. It's this."
Yeah. But I guess that's more of a fallback if you already know her name and she knows you know her name. But if you know her name, she doesn't know you know her name, then you're like, okay, what's your name? And then she can say her first name. You just roll with that.
I've done a few. What was your name? And then anyway, I've done that. NYC, man.
Yes,
what was your name?
Yeah. So like if you anyway, so
and
funny.
What was your name again? Yeah.
Justin, it's good. It's good. All right. So anyway, so first is the name. All right. So that's the first step. That's what Cam's saying. I think you just have to you always have to introduce yourself, just be like, hey, my name's Aviel, hey, whatever. So I mean, that's at least the first step is the introduction, and make sure it's a good one. Make sure you're make sure you're coming off, strong. It's your first impression. So make it impress, like make a moment. So man, dude, okay, we won't get into stories. Go ahead. What's up, Mike? What do you got?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
All right, so to the guys, what does your first step of pursuing a woman look like? Is that saying hello, compliments? Just tell her, hey, what's up? This is my intention.
Gotcha.
What's your deal?
I guess it depends on the medium I'm communicating on. If it's like social media or something, usually I'll just send a DM, just straight up like, hey, introduce myself. I'm pretty much get to the point type of person. So I don't beat around the bush. I say, hey, my name is Mike. I'm in law school. I'm a minister. I'm 24. This is what I do. I kind of just let them know. And I try to start a conversation, just try to talk. In person, pretty much same thing, but you just walk up to the person, and you talk to them. And that's how I've always approached it, even saved and unsaved. And that generally works for me because seems like people appreciate it when you just make it clear what your intentions are. You don't muddle the waters. You kind of just say, hey, this is what I want to talk to you about. Direct confrontation is pivotal in my opinion. So that's the approach I try to approach everything in life. Just try to be direct, try to get straight to the point, try to be specific, not general. I try to have specific intent, not general intent. As they tell you in law school, specific, general, and all that. But yeah, just shoot your shot. It goes in, doesn't go in. As long as you take the shot, I mean, nothing to regret.
Worth trying, worth a shot.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, I'm glad we have multiple homies on here, because then it's like, yeah, I would say that just being direct with your intent. I mean, from a social media standpoint, I think I would probably lead in with just starting conversation before it's just like, hey, what's up? I'm Avil, Yapa, whatever. Then, but in like a real, I mean, you guys heard me say on the lives, like you see someone at like conference like NYC, because you're not going to have that opportunity again, like a big, massive conference over, let's say, I don't know, 1,000 people. Any conference, it could be, you just walk up and like, hey, what's up? So like everyone knows if you walk up to someone and like you kind of give off this type of like little vibe, like, hey, like
the interest vibe.
Yeah, and then it's just, everyone knows what's up. So you're just
everyone knows the vibe. Yeah.
I saw you and you're like, you caught my eye. So like, what's up? So then, that's where I would use like a very forthright, hey, my name is Avil, 24, whatever. And then like, can I talk to your dad, talk to your pastor, whatever we got to do. But, but I think, I don't know, in like a smaller venue or whatever, I think conversation, you used to work that conversation angle. So anyway, but now I would like to know from you guys, ladies, like, what's your perspective on a guy approaching you? Like, is that forthrightness and directness? Is that something that's kind of like, and be real, be transparent. All right. Is that kind of like more of a turn off, or is it more like, okay, he's serious and that's more attractive type deal? Or is it like the flow of conversation, almost like, oh, we sprang up into a relationship or sprang up, from being friends? Is that a better approach? Like, what's your guys' perspective for you personally, Kev, for you personally? And we'll go ahead and start with, we'll start with Maya.
Okay, sorry. I was trying not to laugh, but because this is an interesting question, I have thought about this from not really the in-person. I'm an extrovert. I'm an initiator. I love just strangers are like new opportunities to be friends. So like in person, I'm not stressed, but the DM online aspect has always been an interesting approach. Because if I don't know you and you DM me, there's probably not much that's going to come from that. I'm sorry. I guess I'm honestly surprised I'm even here interacting on Yapa. Like, it's just, I'm still maybe an old soul to the online, be careful online type of thing. But first, you need to make some type of connection. If you're, I don't know, comment on their story they posted on Instagram, or comment on this, but still keep it genuine, because you can tell when people are just trying to like be in your DMs and start up a conversation. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about the just direct DM, especially if I just don't even know you. Because then I know you only DM'd me based off my profile picture, and I don't want to know that you only think I'm cute and you don't know anything about my faith or intelligence or anything, like any good qualities. Is, that's not, I'm assuming that you're only hitting me up because you think I'm attractive, which is flattering. That's nice. But there's more important qualities that are long lasting. So I don't know, maybe other people in our panel have experience with the online connection aspect of it. But yeah, I'm a little still iffy on that. And then two, kind of another odd thing that makes me, it's like compliments. So it depends on what the compliment is. I don't know, talk about a book. Oh, you see them reading a book, you like the book. I don't know, something subtle. I don't like, oh, you're really attractive. I don't know. I just don't, because guys, of course, are usually described to notice like physical aspects first. So I just like when a guy focuses a little bit more on the quality. Like, I know the physical part is there, but I just want to know that you're interested in my heart and in my mind rather than all the other stuff. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what the other panelists think about that. But yeah, so that's kind of I don't know how I feel about those type of things.
It looks like Carmen's about to shout, like you got an organ playing in the back, just tearing in. All
He's
right.
having church.
This is why I'm muted. But no, like, yes, just yes. So one of the things, and I've thought about this too, and it was actually based on, I was watching a live, I don't know what live it was, but I remember, Ava, you were talking about how you're like, this is like the kind of thing I would say. And so since I've not been to conferences before, and so I've actually, like, I come from a very small church, and so like I haven't met a ton of apostolic guys. So I was like, so my initial response is like, okay, how would I respond if someone was like that? Especially for like someone like me, I like being very direct. And what surprised me was I did not like the idea of some guy walking up to me and going, hello, my name is blah, 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 and I'm interested in you. Like, I didn't like that idea, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized it was because, to me, if, like, one of the things, and I think sort of piggybacking off of Maya, like, I mean, it's flattering for you to say that, like, I look pretty. Like, I mean, I was trying not to look like a mess. So thanks. But, like, that is not, like, what I look like is not in my priorities, like my top priorities of what I value about myself. And so if what you're displaying is a greater focus on my looks, when what I wish you would value is like my heart, or like how I interact with people and those kinds of things. Yes.
No, go ahead.
Well, I'm curious.
Go ahead.
I'm curious to know, like, how is the homie supposed to know that in the first interaction?
No, it's just so funny how it's
Just
so
wondering.
different. The guys and girls are like so different, because I'm resonating with what the girls are saying, and I'm like, the guys are probably like, but how am I
They're
supposed to know
confused.
this?
I promise.
Exactly. How are we supposed to make this happen?
I would
Yeah.
tell you.
Yeah, but
Right.
also,
Oh, her personality looks good.
Hold on. Let me explain.
I'm kidding.
We got to break it down for them ladies. We gotta break it down.
I have a PowerPoint presentation and a pointer. No. So what I realized that I would prefer is if, like, say, make eye contact, whatever, some guy walks over, like Janessalyn and Aviel said, like, there is that energy. So it's not that, like, I don't want, like, I mean, it's probably going to be obvious if a dude's interested, but what would really, really be attractive and impressive to me would be if a guy started a conversation with me first, asked me what I do for a living, asked me what I'm passionate about. And then, so as Aviel mentioned, I'm an English teacher. I will have a 3-hour-long TED talk on English teacher things. Like, you get me talking, I'm just super passionate about it. So if some guy asked me, like, maybe because my mask says something about teaching, and he's like, oh, are you a teacher? And then I got talking about that. If that dude at the end of our conversation was like, hey, I really like listening to you talk about, like, you sound like you'd be an awesome teacher. I would have loved to have had you in class. You, like, I would love to talk to you more, because you're, like, I think that you're funny. I think that you're cool. And I'd like to talk to you more. If it's okay with you, could there be some way that I could talk to you more, whether it's a Facebook friend request? Because, like, I would prefer a Facebook friend request before my phone number. So if he's like, I'd like to talk to you more, is there some way that I could do that? That would be so attractive to me, because I was like, this dude not only cares to know who I am before jumping in, but also, odds are, like, if I'm talking about this stuff and he finds that really interesting, that means that if a relationship were to grow out of that, then when I talk about that stuff, he's going to be interested. He's not going to be bored. Like, dudes, if you start talking to a girl and what she's talking about bores you, it's possible that you could grow an appreciation for it. I'm not saying that you might not, but if it's not interesting to you, it might never be interesting to you, and that's going to cause problems later once all the dopey love drugs wear off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, there you go.
Yeah, I feel a need to defend DMs here. There's a reason why I started my statement talking about what I would say. I started with, hello, my name is, I do this, I do that. And there's a reason why I didn't at all mention, hey, I like you. Because a DM is simply a medium of communication. People get this, it's a misinterpretation that if you DM someone, you're straight up saying, I like you. No, what I'm responding to is a guy who's nervous to approach a girl in the first place, right? Nervous to talk to them. What I'm saying is the key is to just talk to them, right? Whether it's via DM, whether it's in person. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you start out with, oh, I want to take you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you send a direct message because it makes it clear you want to talk to them directly, right? You don't just comment on a comment section, and then you just make sure that doesn't consist of something that's too forward, but you try to initiate a conversation that could lead up to that point. That's what I was saying. I wasn't saying I'm saying use the DM as a ways of directly connecting with that person to initiate a communication that leads to that endpoint, which is being together. That's what I was trying to say.
But I think, like Carmen said, there still needs to be some type of, like, I guess, beforehand communication that made it, I guess, incentivized you to DM. Because I still, like, so if you're on Instagram, you have the 10 letters in my bio and my profile picture to go off of for DMing me. So, like, if you didn't know me. Now, if you do know the person, that's different, or you've had to like a chat with them before in a different platform or something like that, then that makes sense. But like, if you've never, ever, ever came across this person, that's where my hesitancy comes from. You had the 10 words in my bio and my picture.
I guess where I'm confused is, what's the difference between saying what you're going to say on a comment on a post versus saying in a DM? Like, I guess I'm trying to see, how is it different if you're saying the same thing?
About in-person interacting. I was not talking about DMs at all. I'm sure it could be applied there somehow, but I was strictly talking about in person.
Yeah, I got that vibe too. Yeah, like you're just saying there's other ways to do this than social media, like in person's, better.
Definitely.
If I can throw in a with someone.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I, not to play devil's advocate, just I've been there with the ladies and feeling almost like this indignation, like, okay, but how are you just gonna be so focused on my looks that that's all you think about, and you don't even know that I love looking at the stars, or like I love reading this book, or that I'm really obsessed with this, and it's like, I want you to know the real me. But yeah, I would get like indignant about that, like, how are you just gonna DM me and stuff? But as I've gotten older, and especially seeing things from Aviel's perspective, and understanding that, guys and girls really do operate and think very differently. I try to understand the other perspective. And also, every person's different. There are women, I'm reading the chat, and there are ladies in there who are like, bro, shoot your shot. I don't want to beat the bushes. I don't want to beat around the bush. I want just be upfront, and if you like me, let me know. And there are people or ladies who like it straightforward, and there are guys who like to not be straightforward. They like the small talk, or let me get to know you in a friendship aspect before I make my overt attraction to you known. And so it kind of depends on the person. And if you're a guy who likes to beat around the bush a bit more, and you're dealing with a girl who likes it straightforward, then you probably aren't meant for each other, and vice versa. So I do fall into the camp of, it's like, okay, I want you to like me for me, not just the way I look. At the same time, I have grown to understand that, one of the first reasons why someone would want to get to know you is because they are attracted to you by what they see, especially if they don't know you. Now, I think, me personally, dealing with like straightforward DMs, that kind of just makes me anxious, because like I said, I'm more of the, let's find like common ground to talk about. Let's, chat and get to know each other that way. But I'm not saying that is a route that guys shouldn't take, because again, there are some ladies on the YouTube chat saying that they prefer it that way. I think with that, I do understand how a guy can like look at a girl, and maybe he even did stalk her feed 9 times out of 10. We girls and guys stalk each other's feeds, and he sees something in her that he actually likes and appreciates about her personality that he's able to see. And that could also be because he's seeing a highlight of her on social media. Well, when you see someone at a conference, you're kind of in a way also seeing a highlight of them too, because you don't know them unless you do. But let's say you're strangers to these people. And so sometimes the first step in getting to know someone is just saying hi. Now, if a guy like just comes up to you and say, hey, so I'm interested in you, can I get your number? That is kind of like, whoa. Again, some girls like that. Me personally, that's a little bit too direct. Like I would like to get to know you a little bit first, have you get to know me a little bit first before we even like take that step. But there's not too much of a difference in my personal opinion from doing that on a DM versus doing that in real life, like being direct or even just breaking the ice for conversation. But I think a good way to take that more appreciating the girl for who they are approach is by interacting with the girl on social media, because I know at conferences it's kind of crazy. So I'll talk about social media. Interacting with her stuff on social media, you can find common ground based off of her feed. Oh, I went to that conference, or oh, brother so-and-so, I know him, awesome preacher. And then you kind of develop a friendship of sorts, an acquaintanceship on there that could eventually naturally grow into DMs if you would rather take that route.
And I also want to clarify from, I guess I should have mentioned this. So both of my social media accounts are private. So that's why I was saying you would only have the profile picture in the bio. Because if I don't know, I just have a private account. So that's why I was saying that. And it's just to clarify. And then also, as far as being around the bush, you don't have to be around the bush. I was just suggesting being subtle with the physical compliments when you're first DMing and such. Yeah. But yeah, if you already have access to their feed, then I guess they feel comfortable allowing you into their world. But I'm private, so that's why I was speaking from that perspective.
Yeah, no, a lot of what you were saying, I was like, wow, that was so me. And I still feel that way too, because it's like, I want to be appreciated for who I am, not just how I look. And I think majority of females and girls and ladies feel that way. So yeah. I totally relate to you, girl.
Like a quick little snippet. One time on the bus, campus bus, right? Here's the first red flag. So guys, do not do this. A guy asked me to come to him. Don't ask me to get up and come to you. You need to come approach me. So that was the first red. That was the first strike. Then the second strike, I approached him because I was trying to be nice. You know, I went to a Christian college. I'm trying to be nice to people. And so, he says hello, talks about school briefly, but then literally less than a minute, it's like, so you talking to anybody? Are you with anyone? See, that was too quick. He didn't need to ask that. He could have been like, hey, you want to get coffee? You want to get this? He's just already at like step 4, and I'm at 0 because he already messed up making me get out to come find him. So it really is just kind of like the tempo and the pace. So you can be direct when approaching and say like, hey, how are you doing? Hey, you want to discuss about this, discuss about that. It's just like slow down with the interest, because I feel like there's a difference from approaching and saying hello and communicating you have a certain interest in developing a potential more involved relationship than just casual friends. So yeah, little snippet of a story time for y'all. I hope that was a good piece, but
no, that's wow, a lot of perspectives.
Taking a lot of notes.
We got
someone in the comments on YouTube were like, is this gonna be saved?
Oh like, yeah,
you can come back, take notes.
Yeah, come back and take notes. Let's go ahead and hit another question. That was a lot. And I honestly think there could be even more said, especially if we're attempting to get to a head as to like, how should guys really approach a woman in kind of like that from a lady's perspective, but we won't dwell on that too much longer. All right. So the next was a split. So how long do ladies think the phone conversation should be? At what point is it awkward? All right. And if you guys want to, we can hit this as well. I once heard that true friends are people you can do absolutely nothing with and still have a blast. Is that true with ladies, or do they something else? Or do they need something to do 100% of the time? Or do you guys need something to do all the time? So we'll go with the phone one first. So how long do ladies think the phone conversation should be? At what point is it awkward? Ladies.
Well, I think it all depends on the person that you're talking to. Are you guys just friends, or are you tentatively talking, or are you in an actual official relationship? And then also it kind of depends on people. I do think, let's say you guys are just getting to know each other. Honestly, I don't know if someone's going to think the conversation or the phone call is going too long to where it gets awkward if you guys are actually really into each other and are really hitting it off. I mean, just talking with friends, we can go for hours, right? So if assuming that this person that you're talking to, you guys are like really hitting it off, I doubt that you'll start thinking, oh, is this awkward? Or, oh, I'm starting to feel awkward with how long it's going. I mean, if you do, then it's all subject to you. I personally don't think that there really is a set time frame. Now, if one person is into the other person and the other person isn't, then yeah, I could see that getting awkward. Again, I don't know if there's like a set time frame. I think it's more so the time that in the day that the conversation takes place. Obviously, if it's getting a little too late at night, you're kind of walking into some into some, because you get more emotional, your guards are down when it's late, when you're tired, when the moon's shining through your window pane. Things look different in the moonlight. So you just want to be safe and keep the time frame at an appropriate time frame. I think that's more of a more important than how long the conversation goes. But again, that's all dependent on your relationship, your age, and what your boundaries are and house rules are.
Jennifer on Instagram says to let it end naturally. Just if it's not going in, I super agree with that. If a dude is trying to stay on the phone like he wants to be, it's like, dude, homie, you just kind of let it go. Just let it end naturally. So I agree with that.
What about the other way around? Like if the girl doesn't want to get off the phone with you and she's just like putting you on speakers and washing dishes or something, it's like, no, you can just keep talking. You just keep talking.
Priorities.
Like
in
what?
check.
I guess I'm asking the other guys this question now. Like I have no idea what to do at that point. Like I'm sitting here like, I'm asking this question from the other perspective. Like, how long should this go? You know?
Are you asking, like, if you don't want to be on the conversation, how do you get out of it? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, but not that you don't like the person, but you're just kind of like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I got stuff to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Priorities, and like just express them. Like if you had I think just putting in your quality time, showing that you had effort. But like, hey, if you got homework, you got homework. You got a job. Like I love a man that works, hardworking. So like I don't want you sitting around all day talking to me. You need to go do your thing. Be your own person. So I mean, just communicate with her. Just tell her, okay, well, I'll text you tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know. Do you have a hard time hanging up the phone or like hanging up the phone with the ladies? Cam?
Well, it's Cam. Okay, go ahead.
Well, it's not that. It's just like I'm wondering if there's this. I think it was a dude asking the question like, what do the ladies think? But like on the other side of things, like the dude, I've personally been in situations just like how long. I mean, I was ready to get off the phone like 10 minutes ago. And I'm not trying to be cruel or like rude, but like I want to be respectful and hanging up. And like I'm wondering too, is there like some universal like code?
All right, go ahead.
So one of the things that I was going to say is like the idea of letting it end naturally. Like if someone is the kind of straightforward person who just will stop talking because they're not interested, or even if they're like a nice person and if they want to get off the phone with you, like they're not going to keep saying things that you can respond to. So like if it's getting quiet and awkward, then like, I think a really easy thing for you, like if you don't want to make it feel like you're leaving, is like, all right, I'm just going to let you go or whatever. But one thing that you can do, like if you've got a girl who just loves to talk. Speaking from experience, if you stop listening because like your brain's just like, I have maxed out my ability to listen. It's not even
Yes.
a bad
Yes.
person.
Yes. That's it.
And so the thing is like, if you've maxed out, but then you're still there, like odds are, like if you've been actively listening and then like saying yeah or asking questions or whatever, which is a huge thing in communication, and then you stop, if she's the type of girl who likes to communicate and likes to be heard, like she's not gonna like half-baked listening. Like she's no. So if what you want to do is say like it, like, I mean, if you've got something that you got to do, or if your brain's just fried, for me, like it would be okay if a guy was like, hey, I have to do this, or like, hey, my brain's really, really fried and I want to be able to listen to you properly. So would it be okay?
That's a good one, bro. Just
if we continue this conversation?
That might be too honest. That might be too honest.
Yeah, some girls will not take that well. Unfortunately, it's not on the guy, it's on the girl.
Just put it like this. Just be like, listen, I love.
Are you saying I talk too much? Yeah. Are you saying I'm frying your brain?
No, it's just that it's been a long day, you know. It's just, and
are you saying being with me is long in your day?
No, it's just.
I'm telling you,
I've taken so much.
Tread carefully.
I want to process the things that you've told me. Let me sleep on it, and we'll come back. We'll revisit it. It was amazing.
I'm saying hard to process.
No, I'm just saying that there's so much depth to what you're saying that I want to process it. I'm not as deep as you, so let me process.
Yeah. Okay. Then.
Yeah, I'm definitely chatty. Like Carmen said, I'm a talker as well. I don't know if people follow their love languages or the 5 love languages, but I'm definitely quality time. So I love some good quality time. Now I know everyone doesn't have 5 hours in the day or whatever, but it's just like Carmen was saying, be present, like fully present in the time that you have, and then, you know, set boundaries on, okay, so it cuts off at this time, or whatever. Except I hate blunt goodbyes. Don't be like, okay, click, like softly, gently say goodbye, because I don't like you just disappearing like that. That's anxious for me. But you know, going back, I guess, to the conversation of how long it should be, I'm a quality time person. I think, one, you got to keep your boundaries. I did not do good in the Yapa chat last night. I was up way too late. So keep boundaries on how long you're talking. But I don't think there's a formula or like a certain conversation. I do think, like that was mentioned earlier, keeping it at daytime, because night is a whole different vibe when it's one-on-one. And then definitely, like, I think 9 o'clock is a good cutoff, like when it's one-on-one. Like if you're in a group chat, then, you know,
yes,
you have other people with you. But
you have accountability partners. Yeah,
exactly. But like one-on-one, I cut it off at like 9 o'clock, unless I like forget I have homework and I need like an answer or something. But other than that, keep it in the daytime. Like even if we were talking about like when to hang out with someone and have an in-person conversation, keep it at lunch, breakfast. I feel like dinners are a little too intimate if you're not like officially dating type of thing. So yeah, definitely an appropriate time. I think it's really important, like that was mentioned earlier.
I think just having that cutoff time. I mean, just honestly, how would you say it in a nice way? Just like be very cognizant and present, you know. And I think listening to your significant other, because that's a complete individual. There's no other person on planet Earth that's like the person that you're getting with. So you have to listen and learn and hear. So if he's ready to go, and you can kind of tell in his voice, you know, don't drag him for too long.
Yeah,
right?
it's a two-way street. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And then if you know, vice versa, if you can kind of just pick up those nuances, go with those. You're gonna say something, Mike?
Yeah, I was gonna say part of it's compatibility, but the other part of it is being willing to adjust. So at my current job as community outreach liaison for council member, I worked for manager, and I was more of a hands-off, kind of keep to myself, like having my own space. My manager, she was more of a micromanager. She liked hovering over you, you know, directing everything and whatnot. So at first it wasn't working that good. It wasn't working very well, but I paid attention to her tendencies and I heard her out. I kind of figured out the type of person she was, and I made certain adjustments. So I'm like, okay, instead of me just sitting in my corner, I'm gonna go out of my way to every once in a while go to her and show her what I'm doing. I give her a checkup, show her what I'm doing, and that's what this comes down to. It comes down to both sides, and she adjusted some too by giving me some free time, letting me do my thing more and being micromanaged less. So each side gives up a bit. That's how marriage is supposed to work. Each party, each person that's involved is supposed to give up something. That's how, even among countries, that's how treaties work. Each country gives up a little bit of this or that to make a treaty work. Okay, maybe you want it to look like this, you want the law to say this, but this country wants it to say this. So let's find something in the middle. Let's meet in the middle. That's how, I'm not trying to get too deep, but that's how at my job, I see this all the time. That's how legislation gets passed. You have two sides. One has this they want, one has this they want. They meet in the middle and they make adjustments. So that's kind of how we should work when we're communicating with the other person. Maybe if you like to talk, you like to go on and go on, recognize, okay, that person doesn't like to talk so much and be involved so much. I'm going to cut down a bit. And then other person who doesn't like to talk and hear so much, what other person wants to hear you talk some. So be more active. And that's what I did. I used to be an introvert. I adjusted. I forgot the word for it, but now I can talk when needed. Now I'm more vocal because I adjusted. That's the key. You got to grow up, you got to grow up and you got to grow as a person, and growing as a person is making adjustments. The best leaders are able to grow and accommodate the people that are following them. They're able to adjust based on the type of people they have following them. And I'm thinking of a pastor I was listening to the other day. He pastors 2 churches. He said that's what he does, depending on which church he's communicating with, because they're in 2 different locations with different cultures, different spirits, different races, even different people. He changes his personality. He's able to adjust depending on who he's talking to. And that's the key here. Adjustment, make an adjustment.
Yeah, that reminds me of what the Bible says, panim, when the Hebrew word for the face of God. It's actually the face says of God, meaning that there's multiple different times where God would display himself to his people in certain ways. Sometimes he's a fortress, sometimes he's, a shield, sometimes he's, and so I think the same thing definitely be said when it comes to like the relationship stuff. Now, there is a really good question. All right, a really solid point that was, or question that was voted on. Let me go ahead and pull it up. All right. For guys, what are some spiritual and natural deal breakers when you're interested in a girl? All right, so Cam, you can go ahead and go.
Sorry, there's some lag going on.
All right, no worries.
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, so spiritual and natural deal breakers when you're interested in a girl.
That's a Mike Watkins question. I'm gonna just kind of let that. I'll be right back.
All right, brother Watkins.
Yeah, I actually have an answer to this lined up because in the guys chat, actually, someone asked, how do we determine, the boundaries? And I gave how I feel. So I'll just give that. That's how I feel. So from a spiritual perspective, it's the whole, if I'm a 7, you got to be a 7 too. Like it's the whole, first of all, the person, has to have a relationship with God, really seeking God, really passionate about God. So that's the first thing, right? Like, oh, I'm seeking God, you're seeking God, that kind of thing. But from another deal breaker from a spiritual perspective is if your calling doesn't line up with my calling, because I can't have a half of a cookie and try to put it with a half of a cake and come up with a cake. The other half has to be a cookie in order for them to fit together. So if I am called to be
That's good.
I know, right?
That's good.
If I'm called to be a pastor in Houston, you're called to be a missionary in Africa, it doesn't fit, right? Like maybe you're saved, but the calling deviates so much from what my calling is that the 2 pieces don't fit. They're different pieces that we're attempting to fit together. So there's a lot of friction, a lot of tension, preventing them from complementing each other. So that's from spiritual perspective. From the natural, the first thing is emotional compatibility. So it comes down to one thing that is a no-no for me. And no offense to, I hope they're not watching. I have some close friends that tend to have this, But someone that just talks and talks and talks, and you try to get a word in, and they just keep talking and talking. Some people don't mind that. Some people like that. But like I said, I like to be able to say something. It's like, oh, bro, like, come on, man. I got a mouth too. Like, we both got mouth. I need to express myself too. Like, God gave me a mouth too. Let me talk. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's a no for me. We have to be compatible. We have to, if you're not willing to adjust, like, it's, so that's one. And then for natural, the other thing is, this is as a personal preference. I love working out. I love fitness. So even before being saved, it's always been my dream to have someone I could like go to the gym with, I could ride my bike with, someone like that. So you don't have to be about that right now, but I would love for you to be open to entering that world with me, sharing that with me. And so those are kind of the main things I look for, like saved. Our callings have to line up as well. I believe in that. And then natural things, oh, yeah, that's it. Natural things, it comes down to, the workout thing, and then it comes down to emotional compatibility. Those are the things I really look for.
That's what's up. Now, before we flip the question, we'll go ahead and all right. And before we have Cam come through, I'll go ahead and say what I think. I think that when it comes to a deal breaker, something that I cannot do on a spiritual note, it's not being willing to change with the word. So when the word comes, all right, I don't care if, the flesh fights the word. All right. But at some, like, the flesh will fight the word, but at some point your human spirit, like, will stand up and either command the flesh to submit, or will just not submit to the word. And it's like, if you're going to, it's almost like stubbornness, if you're going to stand up and say, okay, I'm not going to change when the word of God comes, that's a deal breaker, dude. It's like, then, because we're forever going to be changing, or at least we're supposed to be on a journey of change. And so as we're going about that, we're pursuing that, like, I'm living that by the grace of God, and I'm fighting my flesh to live that way. So so if I'm in a relationship, like, that's like a deal breaker for me. If you're not going to change spiritually. On a natural note, I would say similar to you, Mike, living a healthy lifestyle, exercising and stuff like that. Definitely on the same page with that. I think I don't know. I don't know if necessarily. I don't know if I would say that's a deal breaker. I think it possibly. I don't know. It's in a very, very, very gray area for me. But for if I don't know. I don't know too much about the natural deal breakers. I mean, okay, well, if you're sinning, or living in sin, or you're, I don't know, but that's more like a spiritual deal breaker, I guess. But those would be like an idea of some of the deal breakers that I have. Spiritual note, and I guess natural note. Be willing to change, be willing to try new things. Like we did a live, or I did a live on my personal account, and I was talking about cooking, which is like how it's kind of a lot of stuff sprang from that, but a lot of stuff, all right, in the chats. So but like, try new things. Like, I think that's cool. I think go to different places, see the world from a different perspective. Like, I don't know if I could be with someone who's not like that. I'm like, at least like be kind of like that. If I'm at 100, at least be like 20, 25, or maybe 1 unit on my, don't be opposite, where it's like, no, I'm never, like, I'm not going to change. That's a deal breaker. Okay, so Cam, you can go ahead, and then we'll flip it for the ladies.
All right. So basically, like what Mike said, the submission, or like he's talking about, like, what was it? He talked a little bit about the natural, and he talked about, and I think you talked about, the being the teachable access of things, the willingness to change, moldable, shapeable. I think, like, for both guys and girls, that's like so fundamental in our Christian walk that it's just like, it should be like in the top of our list when we're talking about a future spouse. For me, a big teller, and I know I'm probably diving deep with this one, is submission to authority. If she doesn't respect her parents and doesn't respect her pastor, I'm shutting it down, because I've known girls that have like almost bitterness towards their pastor, and even and I know it's tough, but like they may have a parent that's out of church, or both of their parents are out of church, and they still have like this bitterness inside of them for not doing so, raising them in truth or something like that. Or even if they're both of their parents are in church, they can still have bitterness. And to me, that's just a big teller that there's like more of a spiritual heart issue going on, and that the relationship with Jesus needs to be up here, so that they're, level with their submission needs to be right here too, And so that's a big one for me. And I think that goes along with faithfulness, faithfulness to the house of God, faithfulness, in other areas of, you could say maybe, are they compassionate about the things that they do? Or how do they do the small things? How do they accomplish the small tasks? Because if we don't accomplish the small tasks, we'll never we won't ever get the big tasks done right. So that's a big one for me. And then a girl that complains just turns me off. I'm just saying, I'm sitting there like, man, she should have got over this like 5 hours ago, and we're still hearing about this. Like, wow, and also another one on the more of a spiritual side is if they don't know the word and they're like not applying scripture to their life and they don't live by that. I'm sitting there like, okay, how long you been in church again? And it's probably because it has something to do with that bitterness. Like they don't want to learn anymore. They don't want to be teachable. They don't want to do anything. So they're just like, who cares? And I'm like, nope.
Cam needed that extra time to prepare his sermon, y'all.
Yeah. That's it. There's an offer plate right here somewhere.
Venmo, PayPal, click
Bring
the link.
it in. Bringing in the sheaves.
All right. So ladies, what's a spiritual deal breaker? All right, or natural, like we kind of all the homes touch on natural stuff as well, but like what's that thing that would be like for you?
Okay, so I know this could be, for some people this isn't really an issue, but for me, I have a list of callings on my life, and so a big deal breaker for me is to get with somebody who's not only just like okay with what God's called me to, but they're gonna be supportive and they're gonna be complimentary. Even sometimes God puts people together that maybe their callings aren't necessarily the same exact thing, but they work together and they're a team. And so, putting the two dynamics together, creates this power team for his kingdom. So I don't necessarily have to have somebody that has like the same exact calling, but if they're gonna either make light of women being in ministry or just say, well, yeah, that's cool, and they're not, well, let me put it this way. If they're not passionate about seeing every single person be as effective in the kingdom of God as they can be, whether they're male or female, then we've got a problem. Because like, I love behind the scenes things, but if God wants to use me somewhere else and you're not okay with that, you've got a God problem. And then I'm sitting here and I've got to submit to you, and I still have this call that God's expecting me to fulfill. And that's going to cause so many problems. So I can't get with somebody that's not going to prioritize my call of God above their personal preferences. And you know what? If they have personal preferences, they need to work that out with God before trying to bring that in here, because even if they're like, okay, God, that's fine, and they're not really fine with it, like that's going to show up sooner or later. And like, I'm going to know, and everybody else is going to know. And when you're in ministry, your life is under a microscope. And so any little thing like that, where you're not in line with what God has planned, people are going to see that, and that's going to hinder the effectiveness that God wants you to have on your life. Now, like personal preferences, I don't know, just I feel like so much of it, my preferences are driven and founded upon spiritual depth, spiritual direction, spiritual experience, because you know, there are things in the spirit that it's really hard to work with someone and be with someone unless they've walked in those areas.
Yes. Yes.
Because like, if you're like a prayer warrior and like you're experiencing the supernatural, and you know, maybe like he has the Holy Ghost and he prays and stuff, but he hasn't walked in those areas,
Come on.
then he may not want to like make light of it, but there's going to be a part of him that's going to feel like you're just crazy.
It disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
Disconnect.
100%. So, I don't know. Spirituality and calling is really a big deal breaker. I have a list. Ladies, make a list. Don't tell the guy what's on the list, but compare him to it. I
You
don't
don't
know.
look like this. Can you imagine? You don't look like, and it's like a picture you drew, you know, it's like, you don't look like this.
You know what? Heart qualities. God looks at heart qualities.
That's it.
I don't
That's it.
remember who said that, but that is 100% true. And so if you're going to God over this person, he's going to reveal the true state of their heart.
Yeah.
Even if they're presenting themselves in a different way, because with social media and online and everything else, it has become so easy to present ourselves in a way that we are not. And like, we can make ourselves authentic, make our fake self authentic, because you know, we can add all these little details that support this lie. But God is not fooled.
Preach.
And you know what? Whatever we sow, we're going to reap. And I don't want to get with somebody that's sowing something in their life, and then because I chose to get with them, I'm going to reap because I hitched myself to that. Anyways.
Yes.
Front line, go ahead, start singing. Ready for the altar call.
Man.
Musicians come.
Right, exactly. And the thing is that if you marry outside of the will of God and you hitch yourself to someone whose crop, God knows what crop that person's about to reap. And because you insist on getting with someone, or you don't do the work that comes with making sure that you are marrying the will of God, like praying and fasting and really seeking God with a contrite and pure heart, then that's I don't want to just say that's on you, but in a way it is, because you didn't take the steps to listen. Yeah, it's your responsibility to make sure that you're not, you know, yoking yourself to someone that God never intended you to yoke yourself with. And who's going down a path that has a crop that you do not want to partake of. So it is very, very critical that you pray, and not just pray, but you obey when it comes to choosing and accepting who your future spouse is. Done.
You know, I'm just going to dump two more things in there. I know we say pray, but I'm going to recommend if you are seriously considering somebody, go on a fast. I'm serious, because when you go on a fast, you start revealing what's the voice of the Holy Ghost and what's the voice of your flesh.
Come on now.
And like, you
Say
got to
that.
be able to separate that, because
Say
if what's driving your relationship is 100% your flesh and God's not even in it, like, you're heading for a wreck at record speed. Like, it's going downhill, y'all. Second thing, I just thought of another deal breaker that kind of goes along with that. Servanthood. There are so many people that have amazing calls and they want to promote the label of their call, but they're not willing to submit themselves and prostrate themselves to do and carry what's going to develop them into God allowing them to step into that. Like, if you're not willing to be a servant, Jesus washed feet, then you're not prepared and developed enough to where you can lead that ministry or that relationship. Because,
wow,
I mean, a couple of you guys have mentioned that, like, you have to compromise. Like, if you're not approaching things with a servant's heart and like your pride is rising up, then your ability to compromise and admit you're wrong, that's not there.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to get on?
Yeah. Okay. So ladies, what's that spiritual or even natural deal breaker for you? There's a lot to unpack with this question, but it's so actually needed. Just real quick, let me go ahead and be Yapa real quick. The stuff that we're talking about is like what apostolic people need to be thinking about. We need to be considering, we need to be taking in. And yeah, it's a fun live. We ask, we have all these questions that people want to ask, and that's cool. But like, really, like, the things that are being said from every one of us, is super relevant. Like, slow down. Okay. It's not just all this emotion and stuff like that. You got to think about some things. And on a deep spiritual note, on like a compatibility note, on like a human relationship note, or, even natural note, slow down. It's not all that. Okay, cool. So ladies, spiritual deal breakers.
So one thing I wanted to say is how blessed I feel listening to all y'all's answers to this question. I actually submitted this question at like midnight one night, and I didn't really have like an outline of my own or like a list already made. So I honestly just listening to each, especially the spiritual aspects and deal breakers that y'all have evaluated, definitely have opened. So that's why I'm kind of just sitting back listening to it, because I didn't really have a concrete list, but just I feel like I learned a whole lot from this segment of this chat. And maybe someone else has thought about, what are my deal breakers? What will I allow or not allow? This has been my favorite part of the discussion so far, because I've learned so much. I guess spiritually speaking, for me, I've been trying to pay more attention to the spiritual maturity, but I feel like I don't even know how to come up with a explanation, because y'all just served the whole sermon, and sometimes you just got to say amen to it. But I think that, and then also just like pride. I think pride really hinders God's will in people's lives. It really hinders relationships, because you're so focused on self or what you feel like your role is as the man or the woman in the relationship, and really just surrendering that pride to God. Like for me, I feel like I am naturally an ambitious person, and traditionally I feel like some men aren't necessarily as welcoming to ambition, depending on what it is. Now, what I've been learning, learning through the different Yapa Lives, when we were discussing submitting to your own husband and that concept, what kind of came to me was that you have to, in order to fully submit to your own husband, it's going to be done with trust. You're going to trust that he has a relationship with God. You're going to trust that God has a relationship with him and God knows him. And so if you trust him, then he's going to treat you right. He's going to be supportive with your callings, with God has for you. He's not going to be like, no, you're the wife. No. Or, I don't know. It's just like, you want to be able to uplift each other, because at the same time, although you are together and married in one, you also are individual children in God's kingdom that has a work and a role to do. And I feel like pride definitely can hinder certain things in that relation. I guess on a lighter note, when I was thinking of natural deal breakers, when I asked this, I don't know if it's a deal breaker, but I've heard some bad situations of snoring, and I don't know about the snoring situation. So if you snore, that is okay. I had a roommate that did, and we made it through it. But that was one like just lighthearted natural deal breaker that I was like, I don't know, it depends how severe that is. But I guess God brings him in my life, and he meets what God's will is and all those spiritual things. We'll figure out the snoring situation.
Oh, that's super funny. That's hilarious. All right,
I have an aunt who snores real bad. There's some family members, not Aviel, who snore really bad, and spending the night at their house, it can get pretty miserable. So that is actually a valid concern.
Yeah, some people snore sounds like a tennis match.
Snore. It is hard though, because you can't really test how bad someone snores. So I guess you won't know until later. So I don't know.
Just ask their siblings
or
parents.
Yeah.
Can you record them at night? I just need to know something.
Yeah. I even had a roommate who talked in her sleep, and it scared me so bad because she started talking French in her sleep. And I had only known her for like 48 hours at a camp, and I was so scared. So sleep talking, sleepwalking, that gets me a little scared. But
that's scary.
But if you do that, anyone watching, it's okay. God has someone for you, and it's gonna be okay. It's not gonna be a deal breaker for
That's it.
They could be the person who nothing wakes them up. So it's a perfect situation.
Exactly. Compatibility right there. They talk and they are sleep like a rock. It'll work out.
Wait.
Don't feel offended by this.
Don't they make those little things that go on your nose?
Yeah, they have several different solutions, I guess, for it. But yeah, I just don't want anyone out there to be like, oh no.
Compatibility right here.
All right. Was there any other? Did anyone else want to chime in on the? Okay, so
yeah, I'll chime in. Someone mentioned in the YouTube comments personal hygiene being a deal breaker for a natural deal breaker, and that yes. I have other natural deal breakers, but to keep this succinct, I'll say personal hygiene is huge for me personally, at least. My family has always been big on hygiene, being clean, taking care of yourself, taking care of the temple God gave you and blessed you with. So if stuff that shouldn't be smelling is smelling, like and the thing is, what people don't really talk about is that hygiene does affect relationship. You're not really going to want to spend quality time up close with someone, be intimate with someone, with your spouse, if they're not clean. And I do believe that the cleansing rituals that the women would go through in the Bible are also types and shadows of spiritual representations as well. But I do believe that there is some natural merit to that, because personal hygiene is very big, and also it's hard to be a witness to someone when you're not even taking care of yourself, So personal hygiene is big for me as a natural deal breaker. If you don't clean yourself, So, but a spiritual deal breaker for me, there's many, and there's a lot that you guys have already mentioned that was like exactly like I applaud everything and back everything that you're saying. One for me is if they desire to please man more than they desire to please God, because that will lead down many scary paths and territories, because when you start doing things to please man over God, in a way you're exalting man over God. And the Bible talks about having idols in your life. And when you're idolizing a man and you're worshiping man and their opinion more than God and his opinion, that affects so many areas of your life and in your relationships. And if I'm going to be married to someone, if I'm going to become one with someone, I refuse to become one with someone who is going to sacrifice the call of God on our family's life on the altar of man. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of things can get messy in ministry. And if you're not standing on the word of God and the call of God on your life, and you're not standing with God, you can find yourself standing against God. And I will not, by the grace of God, yoke myself with someone who's going to stand against God. So, so yeah, that's a big spiritual deal breaker.
That's what's up. Carmen?
So, I concur with a lot of the spiritual deal breakers that have been said, so I'm not going to re-say them. But one thing that is really, really big for me is a guy who has at the forefront of his mind just continuously this seeking of God's will for marriage in general and for our marriage specifically, because I'm completely of the opinion that there are some tasks for the kingdom that need two people, and they need them to be partnered that way, and they need the skill sets that are brought to the mix. And so I can't be with a dude who's like, yeah, we just get married because we like each other a lot. It's like, no, honey, no. I just no. Like, if we're gonna be partnered, then if a guy has that priority, then that's gonna avoid so many problems. Because for going back to the whole cookie and cake thing, like, you can take a high quality cookie and a high quality cake and they ain't gonna become the same dessert. Like, so if a guy is really, really focused on getting into a marriage that he is meant to be a part of, and it's based on what he's called to, making sure that they have callings that mesh and what it might be called to, then he is much more likely to be okay with like breaking things off if it turns out that while we might like each other a lot, it's not going to work. And that is super, super helpful. Like, I mean, I obviously would prefer a dude who knows his calling, or at least some part of it, so that I can tell if we're compatible or not. That's why I think it's super important to use your single years to figure out what you need to be doing, because that will save you so much heartache. But if the dude doesn't know his calling, if I know that he is rigorously seeking any information about it that he can find, and if I know that the reason he's seeking it is because he wants to make sure he's in alignment with it, then that wouldn't scare me as much, because I know that once he figures out that it's not aligned with me, then he can be like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Like, you're cool, I'm cool, we can't be cool. Like, that's okay. And so that's a big thing, because then when you have this vision of like, we need to be partnered well, I think that also then he's going to be more focused on making sure that he is equipped with the mental and spiritual equipment needed to hold his part of the team. And so that's super cool. That I would like that a lot. And also just the point of like the purpose in marriage in general, like, I need a man who is constantly working to make sure that he is loving his wife the way the Bible says he ought to. Like, that is so important. And
that should be like a standard for dudes.
Yeah, like, it's and the thing is like, for me, like, it's my responsibility as the woman. Like, dude's gonna propose, I say yes or no. Dude's gonna ask me on a date, I say yes or no. So it's like, I need to figure out what kind of dude this is, because if he's not the kind of man that I want to submit to, that I feel like I can trust, I ain't gonna do it. So there's that. And as far as like the so yeah, knowing the purpose, not just knowing, but striving to achieve the general purpose for godly marriages and the specific purpose for his marriage. Those are huge. Like, if he ain't doing that, then it's like not gonna happen. Naturally speaking, one thing that I think I could sum it up by saying I really, really would need a guy who is concerned with being wise more than he's concerned with being right. Because he, like, if I have,
Mike, that's true. That's true.
Because, like, I mean, and that has to do with pride. Like, if you're humble enough to seek feedback from your pastor, from your parents, from your wife, like, hey, am I loving you well? Am I making you feel valued? Am I that kind of thing? Like, that is wisdom. That's trying to make sure that you're doing the right thing. Because then, I mean, then you get into all like the practical sides of just being alive on earth and being adult and being married. Like, when you have to buy a house, like, I want this man to make sure, like, I want him to know that he's making the right decision, or at least as much as he can, not just like throwing money around. Like, he's got to know how to deal with money. He's got to know how to deal with responsibility and communication. But all that goes into striving to be wise. If you're trying to be wise about your husband or your wife, that's going to lead to you communicating, asking, what do you need? Or, hey, I need this. I mean, it all comes back to that, rather than just assuming that you have no room to grow, or responding to people's feedback for growth poorly. That's a huge mark of immaturity. And the thing is, it's not even necessarily that it means like you're a bad person. It just means you're not ready yet. Like, if you can't respond to the feedback for the role that you're going into, just wait. Just wait until it's something that you can handle. Because when you can't handle it, if you're not mature enough to handle that feedback, there's no way for you as you are to respond correctly to it, because you're not ready for it yet. So don't step into a role that you're not equipped to handle, because then you're not going to be able to fulfill your part, and you're going to feel the weight of that. You're going to feel the tension. You're not going to feel right fulfilling a role you're not ready to fulfill just because you're real excited to be in a relationship.
That's true. Just the way I put it in the chat is like, you have to be an adult, like a legit one, not like a two-timing, half-hearted, whatever.
A Christian adult, a Christ-like adult.
It's even better, yeah. We have a few. We'll get to two more questions, then we'll wrap it up. Because usually we go to about an hour and a half or 2.5 hours with the Yapa Lives, and so we're coming up on that time. Let me go ahead and get over to the questions. This one I thought was a really good one. Where was it? All right. Spiritual deal breakers. Do you pray for your future spouse? If so, how specific are you in sharing details with God? All right. So do you guys pray for your future spouse? Do you know what you look for? Are you guys super specific? If you're kind of just like, well, and why? Because I know for me, I'm very specific, because I know, I pray very specifically. That was a prayer meeting that happened with me and God. He's like, be specific. So, okay. But then some other people don't vibe that way. Some people are more like, I'll leave that part up to God, which there's areas about my future spouse that I do leave up to God. I'm like, God, I'm not touching that. But for you guys, as I put it down in the chat, do you pray for your future spouse? And if you do, how specific are you? Well, I guess. Okay, go ahead, Cam.
Okay. So I personally, I keep a prayer journal, and inside of that prayer journal, I'm able to, it's really nice because I'm able to, when I pray, actually, I know some people may have different ideas on how to do this, but me personally, I will actually write out word for word my prayers. So that way I can say, on this date, I prayed this specific prayer. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, we'll say, my future spouse is on my mind. Well, I will specifically pray this pattern prayer in my journal, just like writing it out. So that way, like, I can always go back and refer to the list. And sometimes if it's like on my heart a lot, like, I'm going to be like writing that list over and over and over again till like my hand hurts, because I'm sitting there just like, man, if I'm coming back, and I'm just speaking out of faith, 15 years, 20 years from now, and I'm like pulling out this journal, blowing the dust off. I'm like, I wonder what happened on this day. And I'm reading this. I'm like, I'm going to need some of those emotional equipment, some of that emotional equipment right now. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's how I'm doing it. There's also this other aspect, and I'm maybe kind of outside of the realm of the question, but like praying that I could be the right spouse for that person too is super important. So I think like in the back of one of my old Bibles somewhere, my mom was teaching Sunday school and she has this list, and she's like, all the things that I aspire to be, I don't know, 20 years from now. And it's like taped over, like it's so hard to open, but one of these days I'm going to be like ripping that tape off and open it up. Is like, did I line up? Like to this day, I can't remember what I wrote down at like 13 years old, but I'm just hoping and praying that the man that I aspire to be is like in that Bible and that little note. So I write it out. I write out my prayers so I can go back and refer,
Bro, that's tight. That's precious, bro.
It's cool knowing that guys do that too. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's all right if I hop in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because the reason why I'm trying to hop in is because when you read that first sentence, first part of that question, I was actually thinking of a different way of viewing it, right? Because when you look at, do you pray for your future spouse? There might be an additional interpretation, but I noticed 3 possible ways to interpret that statement. And the first is the prayer I often make. Do you pray for your future spouse? And what I mean by that is, if you phrase it this way, it makes it more clear. Do you pray for your pastor? Do you pray for your mom? Do you pray for your dad? Do you pray for your brother? Like in that way of looking at it. And I do that. Even though I don't know who that person is, even though I don't know what that person is doing right now, I pray for her. Like that's like a part of my prayer. I'm like, God, keep her safe. God, is she saved? Keep her saved. If she's not saved, save her. So that was the first way of viewing that question. I'd viewed it before you mentioned the additional part of it that says how specific details. So yes, I do that. I always do that. And I believe in doing that. I think that's important, because I believe that when the Bible talks about intercession, that, Spirit makes intercession. I believe it. Like maybe you don't know the specific details of someone's situation. Maybe you don't know even who this person is, but I believe that as you pray and you're going to speak in tongues and stuff, that's God intervening. Like maybe you don't know what to say, but that's God saying it for you. You don't know this person. You don't know what they're dealing with. You don't know the specifics, but God does. So as you say, God, I'm praying for her, God comes. When I pray, I feel God come in and I start speaking in tongues. That's God sending what he knows that person needs to them through my prayer. So that there's that. Then the second aspect of it, the way that this person was viewing it when they asked it, is, do you pray, that God, like, do you pray for the details regarding your spouse, like who that person is? And I do, but I'm probably not as specific with it per se. I'm more general with it. I pray that God, and I got this idea from a marriage conference I attended. My dad was going to, and he's like, hey, you want to go? And I'm like, sure. I wasn't married, but I'm like, well, I'm just curious to see how married Christians are like, And a pastor, the one who actually married my parents, they weren't saved at the time, but he was, and he married them. He said this that stuck with me. He said, you'll know she's the one because she will be someone you can't live without. So I pray for someone that I can't live without. That's part of it. I pray for someone that I feel like I can't be without. I pray for the other half of my cookie. I pray for the other half. Because the Bible talks about how it's supposed to come together and be one. I pray for the person that could be one with me. Right? There's no divisions, no differences. There's differences, but the differences complement each other. They connect. They become intricate. So I pray for that. And then the second half of that prayer that I pray consists of, God, I pray for someone that will make me better. Because the main reason, well, I'm not going to say the main reason, but a big reason why you should get married is for someone to help you out, for things to get easier, right? For example, from an economic perspective, you hope that, hey, that person could help you, maybe financially, or help you as it pertains to with the home, or help you with their job, or whatever it is. You hope that they can help, whether it's improve the house or whether it's improve the money in the bank that enables you to provide for your family and contribute to your church via tithes or offerings, right? So there's that aspect, but there's also the improved spiritual aspect, right? Like the Bible talks about where two come together, he's in the midst. Like when you have two people praying, in fact, the Bible says we're many members but one body. So ultimately having more people, it's just even more power. It adds more power, right?
Yeah.
So the marriage should make your spiritual. And then the other aspect of that is from a ministerial perspective, finding someone that helps improve your ministry and you can help improve theirs, right? Like they help each other. Like you see these dynamic duos of the, the wife and the husband. I see my own pastor and what my former, like they just work well together. And maybe as Alyssa brought up, they don't have the same calling per se, but they complement each other. And even though I'm not in your calling, I can aid you in your calling. Like for example, my parents, right? My wife, like my dad's wife, she's so good at like the historic elements of the Bible. So she often, when he was writing a sermon, she often brings that out to him, like, hey, did you know in this particular chapter this happened here? And he would bring it out in his sermon. And it just adds to the sermon. So we're supposed to add to each other, help me, so yeah. But anyway, just that's pretty much it for me. Like I said, two ways I pray. The first is, hey, I pray for her, make sure she's okay. And the second is I pray for the type of spouse and it consists of one, someone that I feel like I can't live without, like someone that I have that feeling for. And then two, someone that makes me better as a man, someone that improves me. I don't want someone that will make me worse or someone that will add nothing to me. I might as well be single.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to stay the same. I might as well be single. And then if I'm going to be worse, I might as well be single. But the purpose of being married, there's obviously other purpose, but the key purpose I would view it as is having that person that makes you better, having that person that makes you whole, having that person that makes you take another level, and you two together building something together, because you can only do so much alone, generally speaking. That's why we have churches. That's why in Acts they have all these different churches, the Church of Corinth, all these different churches, because you can only do so much as an individual. Well, once you have different parts of the body, you have the red blood cells, the white blood cells, you have the different tissues, the different molecules in the organism. When it comes together as a whole, it makes it work. You can only do so much. It's just an arm, it's just a leg. You need every single part of organization. You need the supervisor, you need the cash register, you need the manager, you need the CEO. You need every single part. McDonald's wouldn't be nothing if all they had was a CEO. McDonald's wouldn't be nothing.
Exactly.
All day. And also when you have another person, you're able to operate in more territories, right? Like maybe let's say your wife's a minister. You're preaching at Texas, reaching souls in Texas. She's preaching at Louisiana, reaching souls in Louisiana. You're able to have more influence because you're able to be in more places at one time. So it's just, there's so many layers to that, but that's all I wanted to.
But here's the problem is that we came in here talking about, us being single, our perspective being single. Now you make me want to be married, man. It's like, man, looking forward to all of that. That's like, yeah, but in time, you got things you got to do in your single time. Anyway, so, all right. So, real quick, that's crazy. Cause like, I thought of the question, like, do I pray like for my future spouse, as in, do I pray for like, specifics, like details and stuff. I want her like this and like that, have this character quality, whatever. But I didn't think about like her currently living today, like actually praying that way, which is, I think is something relevant because, yeah, I would say like, sorry if you're watching this, maybe watching this in the future, but I was not praying for you like that. I mean, sometimes, not like I should. Anyway, so, but, yeah, so I guess I'll just real quick chime in and say again, like the details, but then also when it comes to specific, I think being hyper specific is my deal. Yeah, that'd be the thing. So all right, so Elisa.
So I kind of took the question down the same type of pathway that Mike did. And yes, I do pray for my future spouse, very specifically. And not only just like my future spouse, but like future ministry, future children. Like I literally pray covering prayers over the children that don't even, exist technically yet.
In our time.
In our time. And, I pray for like the relationship that will happen in the future, that like when times are tough, that like we'll have strength to make it through, and pray for characteristics. But on top of that, I've allowed myself to be sensitive that sometimes God just prompts me to pray for strength or pray for clarity or something else that he's needing right now. Because there's times where, you know, he probably has no idea where I am, but he needs that strength. And why not allow God to start prepping me now to be sensitive to that and be willing to follow through with that? Because, like, if I can't even do it now, you know, if I don't have a name and a face, like, God's no respecter of persons. Like, we got to follow through with it. And you know what? That's building your relationship with this person through God is probably one of the coolest things ever. So, you know, don't shy away from that if you're not used to it. Go ahead and start praying, be sensitive, listen, and, you know, pray the specific prayers, but, you know, pray the covering prayers too.
Yeah. Well, I should do that too. All right. Anyone else? All right. What's up, Maya?
Okay, so I have a unique perspective, I guess. I would say in early high school, I didn't understand the value of praying for your future spouse. I was, as you could say, Little Miss Independent. I was going to be an independent woman in early high school. And when people in certain Christian circles be like, yeah, I'm praying for my husband, because I had one friend and I love her so much. She wanted to be married at like 23. Well, she got married at 20. So, God answered her prayers. That's fine. But, and well, more than fine, is amazing. But she was always like, oh, I'm praying for my husband. And I'd just be sitting there like, girl, I can't even drive down the road yet. What are you talking about? So, I just thought it was like when I was younger and like a little bit more naive and marriage just wasn't on my radar. I just didn't. But like now in the past few more recent years, definitely seeing the like value. And I don't necessarily do specifics, but definitely more so along the lines of praying for their well-being, because like it's already been mentioned, we don't know where they are currently or like what they're doing, but just praying for their well-being, for their faith in God. Because maybe you haven't got married because they're still walking. Maybe they still need to be saved. You never know where they actually are, but God knows who they are and where they are. So just praying for them in that way. And then another weird misconception that I had in high school was that people would pray for a specific person. And so I guess I want to like clarify that myth, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Being careful, because there is power in your prayers and you want to pray ultimately for God's will. I don't ever want to pray for someone and then God suffers and allows that to occur. And then I am miserable in the marriage because I was being stubborn and like praying, there's that one point was it Samuel? Yeah, where God was like, okay, you need to stop mourning over Saul. Okay, you need to move forward because it's not happening, and he was praying, and prayer is good, but God eventually is going to be like, okay, we need to like, come on, move on. So I definitely, when interested in a person, I've never tried to like pray for them like, God, like, please let me have this person. It's more like, God, let this be your will. Like, he's really nice, he's really cute, but like, let it be your will still at the end of the day, because that's the most important part. And I know, we have to be careful what we pray for, because God can suffer it and allow it to happen for a lesson to be learned, because sometimes we are a bit stubborn when we are trying to communicate our desires to God. And so yeah, I don't know. It maybe other people experience Miss Independent syndrome when they were younger. But it's definitely beneficial. And I think in addition, I probably, ironically, and I've said this on other lives, pray a little bit more often for my future children than for my future husband, which might be a little bit like egg before the chicken, but still, I don't know. I feel like we need to add that to the list of important things to pray for, because kids these days are a lot to handle, and just praying for some obedient children. So, I don't know, and the health of children. So add that to your list when you pray for your husband, that you pray for your children too, and your family overall, and the foundation.
And to all that are afar off.
Yeah.
Even as many as the Lord our God shall call.
Pray for them all. Pray for everybody. All right. So I would like to add on to that same thing for fellas. It's like, I didn't, you know, I've done it before, pray for my kids, but like that makes a lot of sense. So homies can do it too. All right, now Carmen, you had your hand up. Oh, okay, maybe she's just like, what? But okay, so all right, Janeslin, do you pray for your future spouse? All right. And if so, how specific are you in sharing your details with God?
Well, I actually took the interpretation both ways, or I do take the interpretation of praying for your spouse both ways, primarily because my dad has prayed over me and over my future spouse many times. And he also told me, you know, pray for your future spouse, not just like what you want in a spouse, but for him, especially because of what young people are coming up against, and particularly young men, what they're coming up against in our world. There's so much attacking the body of Christ. But I'm going to focus on males right now because we see how the devil is targeting men because they are the head of the house. And it's, you know, I just imagine what he must be facing and going through. And it's like, so, you know, pray for him, pray for strength, pray a covering over him, because he is a real person. All of our spouses, 9 times out of 10, we are not called to Paul's ministry, and we do have a spouse out there that God has planned for us. And so that person is a real person. And just like you would pray for the people in your city, pray for the people overseas, where your missionary that you support is at, the same way you pray for lost souls out there, you want to pray for your spouse, because they're facing things that if they don't overcome those things, they can very well bring it into your marriage and relationship. And you also need to pray for yourself, because what you want, and you guys have mentioned this in tonight's discussion on this question, what you want in your spouse, you should also aspire to be. And Abel, I'm sure, has talked to you guys about that a lot on the Yapa platform, and we talk about that amongst ourselves as a family. Also, when it comes to specifics, well, I'll just share a little thing about me. Maya, similarly to you, I was very almost independent growing up. And so I still had this romantic ideal of a spouse. And at some point, I think I was actually out of high school. So I had this idea of, actually, I gave my spouse a code name. This is like so girly, oh my gosh. But I like gave him a code name so that he would become more real to me. And in becoming more
Totally
of
haven't
like a
done that or
real
anything.
life with him becoming like more of this real life person. Let's say I because I'm not going to say the code name, but let's say the code name was
you should share it.
Anyway, let's say the code name was like
Zephneah.
Yes, Zephneah. That's a safe code name. Let's say his code name was Zephneah. I'm like, God, Zephneah is out there, and I want to be faithful to him because he's out there. We're just not in a relationship yet. So because he's out there waiting for me, like I should be waiting for him, and vice versa. In my mind, I was thinking, if I am ever tempted to cheat on this relationship by entertaining attentions from guys who I know aren't the one, or flirting just to flirt, or any other things that people, you know, may do as a young single person, I would Zephneah would serve as an anchor to hopefully bring me back and think, hey, I need to be faithful to this person because he is real and he exists. And I always hear a bunch of laughing faces in the chat. But
yeah, okay. It's so funny.
So no, go ahead.
He said deal breaker, she'll never say my code name.
So with that, I wanted to, I kind of created this person based off of like the real person that I know God has for me, and so that I would stay faithful, because that was the idea, stay faithful to Him. And when I get specific in prayer, I do think there are certain lines, and I don't want to like just dive into it, because this could be a whole nother live stream about how specific you should get. I know you guys have talked about this on the Yapa Lives before, on certain areas you don't really want to cross over, because the intention of you getting that specific with God in certain areas, primarily physical, is kind of like questionable. You got to make sure your intention's right for certain things. But I personally think, as long as it's not crossing any lines, like your intention in asking and getting that specific isn't crossing any lines, get as specific as you personally feel you should or you want to. No lie, there was a girl who had a list of what she wanted in her husband, and she listed off all these things to a point where she even said, I want his name to be, let's say, Zaphnath Paneah. And no lie, she married my buddy Zaphnath Paneah, like down to before she even met him, and she had the name down, and God honored
That's
that.
my mom's testimony. For real?
Okay, so I'm just saying it happens.
You better be specific.
You better be specific.
Look, I remember this specific detail. She said that she made a list, I think like while she was in high school or something, or about to graduate. And she said specifically said she had dad's hair color down, and she didn't like the men with dirt under their nails. And so when they first met, she's like, let me see your nails. And he's just like, okay. And she's like, so.
Let me go back to my list. Let's see what else checks
off.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I would get specific. For me personally, I get very specific more so on the character traits. I mean, of course, spirituality is a given. But certain personality traits that I, at least for myself, know that I'm going to need in order to feel like I'm completely one with this person. That it's mostly personality traits that I really get specific with, aside from the spiritual things. Physical, I mean, I would really prefer him to be taller than me. As a tall girl, all my tall girls understand the struggle. And as long as I'm attracted to him, that's good. So, yeah.
Was there anyone else who wanted to chime in on this? Did we get everyone? Because we have one more question for the evening. Did everyone chime in? All right, what's up, Cam?
Okay, so during that same lesson where Mom talked about that list, it was a Sunday school lesson. She was talking to us guys, and she's like, make that list. And it may have been the same list I was talking about where like we taped it to the back of our Bibles and everything. Okay, like I think it's the same class. She said that she told us this great advice. Like I almost want to like just put this on a canvas somewhere and just put like Mom underneath it. But it says, but she basically said, when you're praying for the right, basically she says this is all it was. She says, stay on your knees, and one day when you get up, she's going to be there. I was like, that's all I'm saying. I'm done.
Tell your mom we said thank you, Mom. That's great.
I definitely will.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let me go ahead. We'll hit this last question, which is kind of a different one, but we'll touch in on it, and then that'll be it for the evening. How many of you guys like this? How many of you guys enjoyed this? Awesome. I know
Yeah,
all,
woo!
yes, everyone on the Zoom. If you guys liked it and enjoyed it on YouTube, make sure you like the stream. Okay, obviously that's what you do on YouTube. When you like stuff, you like it. So make sure you like it. Also, subscribe to Yapa 238 if you're not subscribed already, because this is just the beginning of content like this. I thought it was really fun for us to go and get stuff like this started. So this question is quite a interesting one. Let me see the other ones. Oh, no, it's this one. Okay. Does your partner's past matter to you? Does your partner's past matter to you? All right. So let me copy and paste this. I'll put this in the chat so we can all read it. That is an interesting one. We'll start. Who would like to start? All right. Elissa. Sorry, I don't know why.
I feel like I can kind of answer this because I do have a past, and at this point it's kind of public because like I did an interview on it. If you want to watch that, you can go back on the channel. It came out in like November, so you can go watch that afterwards. But I'm gonna say straight up yes and no, and here's what I mean by that. Yes, whoever you marry, if they have a past, it will affect them no matter how much healing, forgiveness, and everything else. There are certain things that you can have happen to you or you can partake of that will forever alter you. So if you have stepped into certain territories, your future spouse is going to need to know about that. That way, especially during the dating process, they can have the appropriate boundaries. And then, you know, walking into the marriage, they can have the correct perspective to help you communicate with you and everything else. And they're not walking in having unknowns or, you know, problems because you weren't open and honest, or they weren't open and honest with you. And the no portion of it, all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And you know what? If you have something that's a deal breaker on your list that, you know, came from God or whatever, then absolutely stick with that. And, you know, don't settle for something less. But at the same time, if it's just your flesh's personal preference and you're going to nix somebody that happens to have a past but's healed from it, forgiven from it, overcome that, and you're going to walk away from that person that God intended for you, then you're missing out, because sometimes the people that have the most horrific pasts are the ones that God is able to use the most, because when you've walked through something, you're then able to help minister to other people in that same area. So just because someone has a past, I think, first of all, you need honesty and clarity about it. There are some things that you probably shouldn't reveal until, you know, you're pretty serious in, because, you know, don't do like I did and put all your business out on the internet, okay? Like, I know, like, I'm not the standard case, so like, monkey see, monkey do not do. Secondly,
that was for a purpose. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, do it. If you're gonna share it and you're doing it for a purpose for the kingdom, then absolutely do. But don't just put your business on the internet. That's unwise, to say the least. Be honest, be clear, and then if you do end up in a serious relationship and it becomes revealed to you, or you have to reveal, I would say you definitely need to pray about it, fast about it, take it up with God. And if you're someone and you have a past and they don't, I would encourage you to be very gentle and kind after you reveal that, to give them time to process and think through that, because, you know, not everybody's past do you wear on your sleeve or out in the open. Like, your past isn't just a neon sign all the time. And, you know, sometimes it really can blindside somebody that they think you're one person because of how much restoration and everything that God's done to you. And you are that person. So they may not expect that you've walked through all this stuff. So give them time and give them space to process it and pray and everything, that they can, take it with the right spirit and everything. Anybody else want to chime in on this?
Janeslin, I don't know if you're.
Well, no, I was clapping because that was a lot of wisdom. It was very mature what you said, and it covered a lot. I was just amening.
Yeah.
I think something that I would like to add, we've made it this far, don't give out now. One thing that I would like to add is that I think a person's past will have a different impact on them if it is something that they are unwilling or incapable of facing and dealing with. Yes.
Just real quick, when we talk about past, like, I know it's kind of I'd say being proper and is kind of like a thing, but we're talking specifically, if we got a little bit more deeper, about like a sexual past. Is that what I'm picking up?
I was just talking about past, like baggage in all its many forms.
Well, I guess
I'm kind of more so saying all, like, in totality, whether it's sexual, whether it's violence, whether it's.
Oh, I didn't think about that. All right, so oh yeah, see, I know. Okay, so I remember doing a live about this, so I won't say too much. So go ahead, everyone else.
But anyways, the violence, I think, is kind of a different one. But anyways, I think like because the thing is like Elissa said, your past is going to impact you one way or another. One thing that I'm a really big proponent of, though, is like understanding what happened to you and the impact that it had on you, because otherwise it's this murky monster that's messing with you in a way that you don't know how to resolve or that you can't really target. So I would be probably more open to a relationship with someone who had more baggage but had been restored than someone who had less baggage but wasn't dealing with it and it was still causing problems. Because I think that like something that and also just to the point of like this, the idea that you want to be as merciful to others as you would want them to be to yourself. It's like we all have our own types of baggage, and so I think that to those who have been forgiven much, they love even more. So I think those people might actually, if they've dealt with their baggage and been restored from it and understand it, not only are they going to potentially have an extra element to their love for God because of what he delivered them from, but also, as someone mentioned earlier, like those are the type of people, like, yeah, like if your husband or wife had this sin that they shouldn't have done, like in this aspect, like maybe like a sexual sin, like, yeah, obviously that's not the preference, but what happens someday when your teenager, if they mess up or if they're feeling tempted to mess up and like if they think that like their parents have no idea what this is like or whatever, like what happens? Like, yeah, like God can use baggage. So if they have a parent that's like, I know what this is like, it's not worth it, or I know what this is like, you're still lovable, or like I know that type of thing, it's not that you want to sin so that you're usable. It's that you want to trust that God can use who you are and what you've been through. Avoid as much as you can, but do recognize the value that specifically God can, because sin, I'm not saying sin has value, I'm saying God has value and is resourceful as all get out. And so yeah, so I'm not the type of person who and I'm not saying like, oh yay, look at me go, no, the type of, like, I am more concerned with how the person's dealing with the baggage now and how they are understanding it in its impact. Because if they're like, yeah, this thing happened to me and it messes with me this way, I need this, like, this is what I need because of how it impacts me. I'm like, look at you go, understanding yourself and communicating with me, like, attaboy.
Attaboy. Good job, buddy. Well, all right, go ahead, Maya.
Okay, so this is a big question. And I think everything that has been spoken about it really has provided some insight on it. As far as past, of course, it does matter and it doesn't, and that's already been explained. But I think as far as like Carmen was saying, how are they doing presently? Because the key word is past. This should be in the past. This should be your old man that has died. You know, if you're still involving in certain things, and I'm referring to, just to clarify, sinful things, and then that's not the past, that's current, and that's not going to work. And you know, some people, I feel like I see relationships where the guy's willing to wait because the girl wants to know, like, I want that to also be your desire, and I don't know, be on the same playing field of where it is, because yeah, the past needs to be the past, not the present, and that's the key word. Also, we kind of touched on this, the importance of defining like the right time to share certain things about your past, and guarding your heart, and just honoring. I feel like we're taught a lot about physical intimacy, but not emotional intimacy, because you can't just go spill your beans to any person who shows you time, or whatnot. And you really do have to just peel it back layer by layer, especially as God allows you to get closer to that person. And for the other person who's receiving all this that they're explaining to them about their past, you really are right at the scars, right at the core of that person's heart. And so that's why, like, everything we've been echoing about, like intention and just praying to God about like how to go about certain things, because these are hearts and there's scars and wounds and all these different things, whether it's sinful acts of themselves or things that they had to grow up in a sorry, rambling. It's getting late. Rather, things that they had to go through in just their living environment, stuff like that, that was out of their control, but they have trauma or just pain from it. So it's funny because I was thinking, I don't know everyone's dating experience in / or out of the church. I'm not sure. I was never allowed to date. I'm gonna put that out there. So I've actually never been in a relationship. So when do you feel like is the right time to tell these things? You know, I've watched videos that recommended it, and like one girl, she was very upfront, I think in her first date, that she had had fornication, and she was very transparent because she wanted him to know that. So like for y'all, what do you feel like is a good tempo for walking through your past and still honoring emotional and boundaries?
So I'd definitely say that for me it depends on the commitment level in the relationship. You know, a first date for me is not where it's like, all right, I'm going to bring out everything, bare my heart before you. It's like, no, we just got to the dating.
I do have to say they did get married though. So I don't know, maybe she knew it was her person and God like gave her comfortable senses. I don't know.
Well, if that's the case, I'd still be like, Lord Jesus. But, because I know that, let's say if it didn't work out, then you have someone who barely knows you, knowing a lot about you, but they really barely know you, but they know too much. So for me, it's like, being cognizant and aware of like the timing of the commitment level, not necessarily the timing of like, oh, well, we've been dating for 2 years, so it's, or we've been together for 6 months, then now it's time. I think that it's more so the commitment level, because and commitment and maturity level too, as you find that out during your dating years, because you can be with someone, you can date for 6 months, you can date for a year and a half, you can date for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, right? And it's like the closer you get to that time where you're committed to that person forever, that time where you're going to get married, the closer you get to that particular time, there's that commitment level that's growing. And I think you can hang up those, the things that you may have done, they may have done, their actions, whatever. You can rest those things on the fact that this person is super committed and super engaged. all right, because they've proven themselves over time. So that's what I would say is like, don't rush to be super open. More on like, that's like, I guess you would say, more of like the being smart about it, like, but there, is something to be said about, what if you guys are dating? Like I knew a couple, they were together for, I want to say over 40 years, but they were like dated for like 2 weeks. All right. So at what point are they committed? Like, I guess, so to say an actual time, I don't know if I could. It'd be more so I'd watch for that commitment level before I just shared, okay, this is, things that happen and whatever. So that'd be my perspective on it. I'm curious to know your guys, but that would be my answer to your question, Maya. And then so I guess I'll just real quick flow into this. Does your partner's past matter to you? I say yes. And then I don't know. I think I'd say yes because I'm so used to dealing with young people in DMs and stuff like that, thinking of apostolic young people's past as a certain thing, right? And generally the main thing that the devil uses, he doesn't really come to apostolic young people with drugs as quickly as he does things that are to deal with the like sexuality. So not really like drugs or, hey, you want to hit a cocaine or whatever. He doesn't really do that as much as he brings the attention towards what's innate within the human being. And so with that being said, I know many young people who fall to some type of fornication before they, end up backsliding, doing drugs, gangbanging, whatever it is. So with that, I understand that's the kind of like one of the premises that I come from when people talk about my past, and this is what happened in my past, and sharing those things with me. So that matters to me because for me personally, like I know what it took for me to maintain a certain level of discipline walking through my life. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying nothing like that. I'm just saying that I would want that reflected. And that is something that I'm sure, everyone would imagine that the person that they got with is someone who reflected their values, I guess you would say. So it's like, I would want that for, and I was talking with a friend like a year and a half ago about this. And, it's like, you kind of want that. Okay, that's the same. Like I kept myself, I would hope that you did. So it does matter because then, it's like, man, there's those letdowns, there's an expectation that was let down and all that stuff. You're like, oh man. So, but in the sense of, at the end of the day, it's like, I got to go back to my prayer room. And that's why prayer and fasting is so important. Fasting peels away, I'm talking about in a relationship, fasting peels away your emotions and helps you see a lot clearer. And I'm speaking from personal experience. All right. So prayer and fasting, you go back into that time with God. Maybe it's a 3-day fast, 7-day fast, because this is one of the most important decisions you're ever going to make in your life. So you go back to that and you go back to God in that, and you're saying, okay, God, I put my feelings aside. I want to know, is this a yes or no? Even considering the past that I don't care for, the past that I don't like, is this your will? And if Jesus says yes, I'm okay. Hosea married a harlot. All right. So, were you gonna say something, Justin?
Oh, I was just gonna say her name, but I did want to follow up with something. But once you're done.
Okay. Yeah. So he married a harlot for the express purpose of having a base to prophesy from. Okay, and obedience to God. So it's like God will do things in your life that you may not like, but you do it because you love Jesus. You love him. So that'll be what I say. Does the past matter? Yeah, it does, but it doesn't matter as much as my relationship with God and his call for my life. And if he puts me in that situation, I'm not going to bark at his hand.
In the will of God. A lot of what has been said in response to the question that was submitted resonates with me. I share the same viewpoint, so I won't rehash that. Past does matter to an extent, but again, what was said pretty much covers a majority of my viewpoints on it. In response to Maya's question about the timing, I just wanted to add a little something. In situations like this, it's one of the reasons why it's very important to not only be in tune with God, but in tune with the godly counsel in your life. Because odds are you have a pastor, and if your parents are in your life, your parents as well as your spiritual authority, if they're in church. So with that, God has a system he works through. He has an order of authority that he works through. And oftentimes he will speak through the man of God in your life. And when I say man of God, I'm not just speaking about your pastor. If your father is in church, he is the man that God has placed in your life. If anything, your parents are the one that God entrusts you to, and it's their responsibility to raise you up in the way that you should go. So having a very open and frequent relationship of communication with your pastor, with your parents, I believe is very key, or another spiritual wise counsel. And the Bible, especially Proverbs, is full of verses that talk about the benefits and the need for wise counsel in your life. I know that with different situations in our personal family life, having that counsel guided us through even potential relationships, people who tried to, spark a relationship, or maybe even if it was a relationship. And I've heard, and I'm sure we all have heard, like, stories where preachers share their experiences with trying to give godly counsel to saints in their church regarding relationships that the saint was interested in. And because the pastor knows something about the past of the guy's sister so-and-so wants to claim as her husband, and he's telling her, no, he needs to stay in church longer. He needs to get through this longer. He's off limits for you right now, because he knows that brother so-and-so had a situation and he's contracted AIDS, but he's not going to spill that personal business to sister so-and-so. But in her rebellion, she gets with brother so-and-so, and because he's still going through his struggles with lust, they fornicate, and now she contracted AIDS as well. And I know this is a very specific example, but this is a story that I heard preach over the pulpit that really has stuck with me, because it's like, is it the preacher's fault for not telling sister so-and-so that brother so-and-so had AIDS? No, it's sister so-and-so's fault for not obeying and not listening to the godly counsel in her life and her spiritual authority. And there are many other stories that turned out very tragically because a person was very belligerent and stubborn in wanting to be with a person who had a past that wasn't any of their business to learn about, because it was never their business to be with that person. So pasts, the question of whether or not pasts matter, I think we answered, but in regards to when you should reveal about your past or not, I think it all depends on the situation. And also I would get counsel from your spiritual authority, from your parents, on when you should, and from God too, prayer, on when you should reveal something about yourself. And then, as an added side note, you definitely want to make sure you listen to the spiritual authority in your life, because you never know about the past of someone else.
Yeah, I was going to jump in if that's okay. A lot of what I was going to say has already been covered, but there was one particular point that it just really hit me that I wanted to emphasize on. And it was small baggage versus big baggage. I feel like we kind of have this misconception, just because my baggage is small, I really don't have to deal with it. But Aviel mentioned something about how, like, fornication could lead to drugs. My power's acting up. Yeah. Anyway, okay, there we go. But anyway, there's been storing over here. But anyway,
Those
we've been
ideas.
talking about how.
I-
It's so
causing
great.
yachts
Can't-
coming in,
can't
causing
contain.
habits. But basically, my point was how one sin can lead to another and whatnot. So it might be small right now. That's what the Bible says: lay aside every weight and every sin that do it so easily beset you. Because even something like a weight that's not healthy can turn into a sin. So it's important to deal with that stuff. Like maybe you have your weight is being on social media too much. You're all in these social media things, always looking at what everyone has. But because you're so nosy, always looking, you get exposed to something. Maybe certain images of certain women, and that leads to fornication. So you got to deal with those small things because they can become big things. Like if you allow small things to just pile
That's
up,
it.
they can come together and formulate a big thing. And that's kind of my other point too. Like all have sinned, right? Like everyone starts out with some baggage, right? Like because of the sin of Adam, everyone. So you kind of have to deal with. We're all born in sin, shaped in iniquity, as David phrases it. So it's important that you deal with that because everyone has certain baggage. You ultimately start with that. You got to just take out the trash. Like you got to take it out before it becomes something big. And that's kind of why the Bible talks about how when it talks about judging and you're going to be judged according to how you judge, and it talks about how you talk about someone who has a beam in their eye, but you have mote in your eye, because in the law, so human law tends to discriminate, right? So you got first degree murder, second degree murder, depending on jurisdiction. First degree murder is like, okay, first degree murder is when you have the specific purpose to kill someone. It's like, oh yeah, I want to do it. It involves deliberation, it involves consideration of the murder, right? And you got second degree murder where either it's an accident, but the one I want to focus on here is it comes out of the heat of passion. So you killed someone, but it's like, oh, well, it was out of revenge. They did you wrong. So we're going to give you a little slack. It is what it is. But the Bible doesn't do that. The Bible isn't like, oh, well, you did this thing that was wrong, but it was justifiable because they did you wrong first. No, Jesus, like turn the other cheek. You know what I mean? Like in the world, in worldly legal systems, like there's a sort of exoneration you get based on the degree of harm you commit. But in the Bible, everything you do is like wrong. You don't get a pass just because it was done out of the heat of passion. Oh, well, I felt passionate about this woman. That's why I thought, that's why I did it. No, like fornication is wrong, whether it's a heat of passion and you didn't
The end
plan
justifies the means, right?
Yeah. Whether it was a sudden heat of passion where it's just suddenly you didn't go in that room alone to do it, but just felt a passion, or whether it's the first degree. I deliberately planned to do it. We did research. We did all that. No. Small back is it's all the same. There's no second degree. There's no. All liars have their place in the lake of fire. All of them. Not small. Not every single one. So there's that. So I just wanted to hit on that. Like it's important. Small baggage, deal with it. And then lastly, I feel like I want to reiterate the fact that Carmen brought out. We got to wait until the baggage is gone, and Mia brought out as well. Wait until it's gone. Or like if you request a painting to be made, and let's say it's a painting of a bear in the forest or something, you don't just buy the painting where the forest is the only thing there, and I'm gonna buy it now. No, you're waiting until the painting is completed. You're waiting until the bear is in the picture as well. Like you wait for the finished product before you buy the painting. That's how you should approach being in a relationship. Right, you should wait for them to deal with the baggage. Wait for yourself too. If you got stuff, wait for yourself to deal with it. Wait until that sin that was red as crimson is made white as snow. Like wait until, as Romans puts it, being made free from sin, you become a servant of righteousness. You got to wait for that to actually happen. You got to wait for you to be free from sin, and then become a servant of righteousness. Like that, you have to wait for that process to complete. Don't buy damaged goods. Like don't buy something that's not ready and expect it to be ready. It's not guaranteed. All kinds of things can go wrong. All kinds of things could happen when it comes to the painter. Maybe the painter dies halfway through the work. Maybe he messes up. Maybe he's painting a bear in a boot. Maybe you're waiting for that person to get saved, and then they just and they're on their way. It's like, oh, it's looking like they're going to finish the painting. It's looking like, and then something happens and they go down. But you decided to make a move, and you didn't wait to see to make sure that they finish. So I end with this. I think that does past matter? I think it does, because I'm very big on submitting to leadership. And as has already been reiterated, I believe you should consult your pastor, because your pastor, as I talked about in the live one time, they know what's best. They know the weaknesses and strengths of each of their troops in their army. They know how to properly allocate the members in the body. Like they know, okay, so-and-so should be on the front lines fighting, but so-and-so, they shouldn't be in the front lines because there's certain things they can't handle. So I'll put them in the back. I'll put them in a reserve unit. That's why you should consult your pastor, because he gets insight from God that gives him a revelation of how to place each of the members of his body. So he knows what you can't and can't handle. He sees things. He knows, hey, that person has that past. And here's the last thing I wanted to add too. Maybe they dealt with it, but what you got to keep in mind is, we talked about this in the Yapa chat, they might be connected to certain family members or have certain family members that you'll have to eventually associate with. And maybe you're not you don't have what it takes to handle that. So your pastor's like, you should have married that person, even though they're saved, because there's certain things they're trying to deal with in the background that will take you out, and they'll be by themselves having to help you and having to help their family. Like you just make their situation worse. So I think it does matter, is what I'm trying to say.
Fire, bro. Fire. What's up, Carmen?
I have a suggestion for anyone who's worried about like when to have that conversation about spilling the beans or whatever. So one of the things that I would recommend, that I think I'm going to try, that just occurred to me during this chat, was like, if you're nervous about like sharing your past with someone that you might not end up sharing your future with, like that's a valid concern. So one of the things that I think is really, really beneficial for people who are interested in each other to do is to have a conversation about deal breakers. Like if you walk up to them and you go, okay, so I've got baggage of my own, you've got baggage of your own, but in the respect of the possibility that God might call us elsewhere, let's talk about what our deal breakers are. And then like if I have a deal breaker that that you have, or or vice versa, or even like, and during that conversation, let's also talk about what our deal fixers are. I don't know what you call it, like things that you want. If you're in the midst of that conversation, and then at the end of it, like, some things that like you have that they won't put up with, then you can say, hey, so based on some things that were mentioned, I don't know that we're going to match. I don't know that we're going to fit. And then and I'm not saying like everyone should do this, but it's like, that is one way of figuring out if you're compatible with somebody without having to make yourself vulnerable to someone who you might regret having been vulnerable with.
All right, we got Brother David Smith on YouTube saying good stuff, Pastor.
What's up, Dad?
So that's awesome. Was there anything else anyone wanted to add specifically to this question? All right, what's up, Cam?
Okay, so this just came to me. When you're worried about somebody's past, refer to your pastor. I like what Mike said. That hit me earlier. But go. I promise I'm not trying to make light of the situation, because I know that could be like a totally touchy situation. I think it was Janessalyn that brought up the point of godly leaders can see farther than we can. I heard Brother Verbal Bean. In fact, I heard it from my dad. He said he read a book about Brother Verbal Bean, I think, was in a plane, and the pilot said, I want you to come sit up front with me, or something like that. And he sits up front, and he could see so much more clearly than he could just sitting in the seat where he was. And God spoke to Brother Verbal Bean in that moment and said, this is like prayer, because you can see farther than the normal eye can see. And I believe that specifically my pastor is that way, and apostolic preachers that have a prayer life and any spiritual authority, whether it be your parent or somebody else, is super influential. It should be influential in that decision of, okay, well, you're interested in this person, but he may know something, like Janessalyn said, he may know something that you don't. And that's what I depend on, is the man of God. But, that doesn't take away from the fact that we should be praying and fasting, because that's important too. But when you have both, I think it's going to be exactly like, the illustration I gave earlier, where like you're praying on your knees, and then you look up and it's like, oh, there she is, or, that kind of situation. I believe that maybe not speeds that process up, but it helps it along, So that's all I got to say about that. Godly counsel.
Godly counsel is a must. It's actually a must. Yeah. Did anyone else want to add anything? Righty. Cam with the mic jab.
Just kidding.
And that's we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. We had over 75 entries, and there's a lot to get through just with that. And then we've been going for what, 2.5 hours?
Well, 12 of those entries were mine. So
really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, did we end up getting? We got to Maya's question. Can Maya ask a question? Who else got a question? Like in the group, the people were like, yeah, we had some people.
That was me.
I did, but I don't remember what it was. So I don't know. I put one.
I put one just to test it out. I was like, do their armpits stink? But anyway, so I'll go through the. Making sure.
I know Jeremy had asked in the YouTube chat, he had asked one of the questions and he's like, oh, you answered my question. And someone else, one of the girls said, oh, we asked the same question. So it's awesome we were able to hit on it.
Well, that's good. I was telling a friend here recently that I love questions, because questions, if one person says it, I'm just assuming 100 people thought it, right? And so the more questions, the better. I love questions. So yeah, so this is awesome. Okay, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this in the chat, please let us know if you liked it. Give us a big thumbs up, like, yeah, we liked it, the emoji, the hand clap, whatever it is, just put it down there so that we can see that. I want to personally thank all of you guys for joining today. I really, really appreciate you guys coming out, giving your time to talk about these things, to give your insights, to give your perspectives, to give the wisdoms and the knowledge and understanding that the Holy Ghost has given you through life, through experience, through mentorship, through, Brother Smith, Nicole says she loves it. So, all that is like what this generation needs. So I want to personally thank you, Mike and Carmen and Maya and Janesslyn and Cam and Elissa for coming out and being on this live. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. It's an honor to be able to chat with about these things with all of you guys, and able for you facilitating this. I just in the comments, so many people were saying thank you so much for having this platform. Thank you so much for doing this. And so I know it's touching many people. So.
Glory to the King.
Thanks. I realized that when everyone was introducing themselves, I didn't get a chance to be like, thank you for having me on, but like, thanks for that. This has been super cool. And also, like,
yes,
everybody who was like submitting their questions, like this kind of stuff doesn't, I mean, we could have just done all of Cam's, I suppose, but
that's an option.
I suppose.
It's so good that we've got people who like want to have these conversations and will submit the questions that they've got because they see the value in them. So that's like super cool too.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on. It's been really cool. I think my favorite part is just hearing everyone. And for anyone who's like a new visitor to Yapa, definitely follow, because you'll definitely learn wisdom. If you're hungry and thirsty for it, you'll learn. And I love listening to everyone's wisdom and their perspectives and what God's teaching them. So, and it's ironic because yesterday I was kind of just casually strolling. I was like, Lord, would I ever be like a servant in ministry, like directly? And then Aviel messaged me and I said, Jesus.
Wow.
I don't know,
That's
but
so awesome.
But I'm thankful to God for all of us to be able to join together, fellowship, and have this opportunity to have these conversations. So
Yeah, I was gonna say thanks for the opportunity. I think I found it like 3 years ago. I want to say about 3 years ago.
Me too.
And so it's an honor just to actually be able to contribute towards something that helped me so much. So I really appreciate the honor. And also I appreciate the learning. I got my notes, and then I got my mental notes too, because I was able to learn so much from y'all. So I appreciate y'all, giving your insight. It helped me a lot.
Yeah, man, all glory to Jesus. That's I'm super thankful. I think that with the us implementing the chats and the hangouts and stuff, I think it's super tightened us up. And I think that's what's necessary in especially coming out of 2020, it being a year that wasn't everyone's favorite, and moving out. But not only that, we saw some things, and I think unity in the church. And what I think is beautiful is that we have so many different organizations represented in the chats, and we're still, we're unified, blood bought, and we keep moving forward. So I really appreciate that. There's more things. Just give me 1 second, guys. Everyone watching on YouTube, if you're not a part of the Yapa Fam United chat, what are you doing? We want you in there. All right. I met these people, majority of them, through, well, maybe not Janessa. I met her, I don't know. Probably holding me this way back, but
we go way back.
Yeah, way back. Met a lot of them through the Yapa Fam United chat. A lot of faces have been with Yapa for super long, but then actually connecting and making a deeper relationship was possible through the chat. So join the Yapa Fam United chat. We have over 100 people in there so far, and okay, at around 10 o'clock. It gets crazy, all right? But a good Holy Ghost crazy, it's a good Holy Ghost crazy. So after that, it's all fun. Also, we have monthly Zoom meetings where we take the entire Yapa fam, everyone in the chat, everyone who follows us on Facebook, or at least in the Facebook group. That's where I drop the Zoom links, and we do stuff like this, all right? But with like 10 times more people. So you're going to want to wait 10 times, okay, 5 times more people. But you're going to want to be there because we're growing to 10 times more people, and you definitely need to join. So all you have to do in order to join the Yapa Fam United chat is to DM Yapa238 on Instagram or private message us on Facebook. We'll go ahead and get you set up. Facebook, it's not us, it's Facebook. They have this weird deal with Messenger where they don't allow people to easily come in. So we have to jump through some hoops, but we're making it work to allow everyone in. So make sure you join, make sure you get a part of what we're doing here at Yapa238. All glory to the King Jesus. This is all prophecy being revealed. And it was told to me, like 5 years ago, that stuff like this was going to happen. And now we're starting to see the fruit of it. So God is in it. We're in it. We're giving him all the glory. We're not having no flesh take, nothing like that, by the grace of God. And we're moving forward. So if you want to connect with them, and we also have a fellas chat and a ladies chat too. All right. And we have a few other things in the works. All right. Which we talk about in the chat. So if you're in the chat, you would know what those things are, but you're not. So anyway, join the chat. Alrighty. Love you guys. You guys are awesome. Again, thank you so much for all of our panelists for joining with their wisdoms and stuff like that. Really appreciate all of you guys. Now, subscribe, like it. And again, join. God bless you guys. Love you all. In Jesus' name. You guys can turn off your mics and let's say one big goodbye. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye, you guys. Thank you for joining us. Love you guys.